Another man done gone. Another man done gone from the county from another
It's
man
Jax.
done gone.
What up, Dollars? Let's go.
Martin Luther had a dream, but Freddy Krueger had a Ruger. Ex-Malcolm out the picture, so now we back to the future. Now we back to these losers embracing death like they used to, poking out they chest. But listen, son, now you leaking that future. So who's the shooter? Is it your man? Or was it a fan? Or was it a stand? I would beg to differ. In hindsight, I bet you he say he was not a nigga. Plus Biggie Smalls was just minding his business, yo. Smoking an Optimo. Somebody got to drop the homie Biggie has got to go. And they couldn't stop it, no, I wish that they could. Yeah, the world needs change, but man, I wish that we would. So why the long frown? A man harmed from a 4 pound. His blood ripples on the floor from the war sound. His mama sitting at the wake, hoping the Lord's found. Another dead, another gone now. Damn.
Another man done gone. Another man done gone from the county from another man done gone.
George Eliot said that it's best to be what you wanna be. Fucking do what you wanna do, so I do what I wanna do. Bet you did it to floss. Bitch, I did what I wanted. Bet you did it and lost. Bitch, I did it and won it. Shit, I'm never coming back. Listen, I just wanna rap. Gee, I told you all of that. On about a dozen tracks. I don't give a fuck. I just wanna rap. Spitting fire on this track like a fucking thundercat. Plus this mic is bleeding rojo. This shit is a no-no. Rolling in that low-low. Plus I'm from that Baltimore. Need a folk, smoking on my logo. Ready for the woe, and we so silly with the flow. Somebody got a ropo. Heard the lanes and I swear they so too much love for the fame just to go broke. You said like I had the rap game in the chokehold. Never think I got the whole world in a rope. Gotta think, damn dog, you crazy. Is he the next Jay-Z? My crystal ball is hazy, but I don't know, maybe.
Welcome back to the Insanity Check podcast. It's your host Kriss here and it's definitely been a week of insanity, and we're gonna definitely get into that shit here. Joining me is a person we like. It's Joy from Black Girl Nerds, and Joy, thank you for joining me. And I just gotta say this, and the reason why I hesitated because I was gonna say something. I was like, I'm gonna try to be nicer, but you've become the person next to Deepom who, when you will book the show weeks in advance, and no matter what happens, craziness will happen that week.
Yeah, and here's the problem: 90% of the time, it's me picking the date.
Yeah, you hit me up. You wanted this.
I do. Like, I'll just like hit Kriss up, like, hey, so I haven't been on the show in a while. What dates work for you? He'll be like, does this day work? And I'll be like, yes. And just things go awry every time.
And especially this time, I literally was looking like, so man, I got a gap. I have Deepom, and then I have Justin. I don't have anybody in that middle date. So then you hit me. I was like, oh, perfect. You just knew I was thinking about this. Perfect timing. Let's bring you on the show.
Yeah, I'm over it at this point. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm just genuinely over it.
We'll get into some of the craziness. Before we get started with that, again, some housekeeping stuff to get into first. I'm working on the Patreon. I have the rewards, I think, that we're going to launch with set up right now. I actually this weekend practiced live streaming, and I can get it to work. I got a new camera here, so we're gonna get that together. So hopefully in the next week or two we'll launch the Patreon again. If you're already an existing MTR Premium member, the only thing you might want to do is maybe you might want to sign up for the Patreon to sign up for the $10 a month plan that gets you live streaming of. We're gonna try to do at least 2 insanity checks a month. Live streamed, and then as we get more people that sign up, we'll do more. We'll add in some Super Tuesdays. We'll add in some character corners. We'll add in all of the insanity checks we do in a month. So as we get more, we'll build into that, and we'll go from there. But hopefully we'll get that set up soon. And like I said, the money you guys give has really helped. It's how I was able to get the camera going. It's how I'm able to get GoToMeeting, which we're using instead of Skype because Skype is fucking terrible. we'll keep you informed of what we're able to buy and what we're able to do with this stuff. I mean, you guys already know that we're able to get new equipment and we're able to go to all the conventions and stuff we do. So you guys already know what we're doing there. So yeah, just stay tuned, and all your support helps. And again, we'll have some other smaller tiers for people who can't do $8 a month. But let's say you can do $5 a month. There'll be something for you for people who can only do $1 a month. Listen, those $1 a month donations, they help. They add up. Get enough of you guys doing that? That's server cost in a month. That's able to pay for our Dropbox. Is able to pay for our the hotspot I use for when we go to Comic-Con and we don't have any Wi-Fi. Like all that stuff is useful for then. So whatever you guys can donate and whatever you guys can give, and like I said, we're hoping to give. Like it's weird. I'm doing the Patreon right, and I'm setting it up, and I'm seeing it tells you, hey, look at the other rewards that other podcasters are doing, right? And I'm looking at the rewards, and I'm like, some of them, they're not even giving rewards. They're not even giving rewards in the shows. They're like, yeah, if you give us $25 a month, you get our things. And I'm like, shouldn't you be doing a show or something? And then I realized we're doing like 6 to 8 episodes a month on premium, which is usually more than a lot of other shows are doing. Like, I just goes back to the idea of when you're a black show, I feel like we always do above and beyond whatever else
Absolutely.
And
absolutely,
like, I've gotten to the point where I've had to tell myself, hey, slow down. You're doing way more than you need to already. So, but we're not gonna. Like, again, I'm not lowering the number of shows we're doing. I'm just saying that, hey, I used to feel kind of bad, like, are we giving enough content? But then when I see some of these other, like, these are like some huge shows that are giving like tens of thousands of dollars a month, and they're not actually giving extra shows a month. And I'm like, how is that working?
Yeah, no, I would say for Black Girl Nerds, for example, we just recently had a GoFundMe for TIFF, and one of the reasons being is we are one of 4 publications that are Black that will be covering Toronto International Film Festival, which let that sink in, because Toronto International Film Festival is not anything to sneeze at. It's not small in any capacity. And so we realized, was like, we don't got the funding because we are not funded. We do this out of the kindness of our heart / with our own funds. We have a Patreon that we've kept running, but for GoFundMe, like, we couldn't get press passes for everyone, so we had to buy press passes. You've had to do that before, Kriss. Like, this is real. We just want to give you guys the best quality content and coverage, and make our fans, particularly the ones who are Black, proud to be their representation.
Yeah,
but realistically, we don't got the funding.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard out there, and it's expensive. I say this all the time. Like, San Diego is the biggest one we do right now, and we're actually trying to. That's the other thing too. Phenom was over a couple weeks ago for the John Jones fight, and we were talking, and I was sitting down with him, and I was like, "Hey, let's list out all these other award ceremonies, all these other conventions that we want to do starting next year, or at least try to apply to, so we can start that ballroom. We might not be able to get it next year. Maybe we'll get it in the year after that or year after that." And the thing about it is, a lot of them are not on the East Coast, or maybe there's some of them are not even in this country. And here's the thing: so for San Diego, it costs us I'm just gonna go off myself alone, right? For me to fly out there, it's $500 one way. I mean, actually, no, it's $500 one way. No, it's a total of $500 for a round trip. But then staying in the hotel was always expensive. If I just did it, we were out there for usually a week, and we got 2 hotel rooms this year, and it was almost $3,000. Yeah, for 2 hotel rooms, because it was myself, Phenom, and then we had Shannon there. And I'm not trying to get 4 people, 5 people screaming in a room. Next year, I think we're gonna do we're gonna try to do because hopefully Deepon will be able to join us out there. I'm hoping that we'll be able to do an Airbnb, but even then, $2,500 to just under $3,000 just for that week to be out there that entire time. Doesn't include food. Doesn't include trying to get around with Lyft or Uber if we're out there or things like that. It doesn't include any of that shit. It doesn't include the equipment we need while we're out there. It doesn't include. So it's like it gets expensive, and that's just one. Right. That's just one event, and we're trying to expand more. So yeah, anything you guys can give, like I said, and like I said, wanted to do Patreon in addition to the MTR Premium because I just have this thing about people donating or giving me money and me feeling like I'm not giving them something in return. And I know we are because we have so many free shows and so much free coverage. But I just feel like there needs to be something, in return for that. So we're gonna be doing that, and you'll be seeing that as we go forward. So just stay tuned with that. And all right, with that, the rest of the stuff you'll hear maybe at the end of the show, or I'll put in little bumpers as we go around. Let's just jump right into this show. And this is why I don't do show notes early. For what happened like on Friday, for things like what happened in Charlottesville. That's the reason why I don't do show notes. I don't do show notes because inevitably I end up throwing them all out because I've done them. We're gonna talk about this, and I just that's not gonna happen. We're throwing that out. We're fucked. We're not we're done. And that's what happened with this. Like I saw Friday night these racist white dudes, were walking around with tiki torches. Talking about take our country back because the statue of Robert E. Lee is going to be taken down in Charlottesville. And I was just like, oh, well, this weekend's going to be interesting. And it got so much worse. That's the thing. It didn't stop there. That's the thing that gets me. It got worse.
Yeah. Let's before we get into this, can we just take a second to talk about like positive things? Like, how are you? How's your life?
My life is good as long as there's no white. I'll be honest. My life is good as long as there's no white people around.
Listen.
I'm
We're
sorry
gonna talk about some positive stuff for a second before we get into this because I just need to start it off with positivity and end with positivity in order for me to get through.
You know what? You're fair because I did that at DPOM last week. So
just 2+ hours. Just give me a start. So we'll start with me. I'll just kind of like ramble. Things have been good this last summer. This recent summer's been my best summer ever. I just turned 26. Black Girl Nerds did a collab with Netflix. I was a part of that. That was cool. I'm a Rotten Tomatoes critic. That's awesome.
Good. So I can yell at you then.
What?
I can yell at you for the scores.
Oh! No,
I need a face. You
just need a face?
I need a face. I need somebody who's real and tangible that I can yell at and be like, "What the fuck is going on with Rotten Tomatoes right now?" Like I need somebody like that.
Let's also be clear. Like because people don't understand things about aggregate scores, especially for certain films. Like there's not a lot of us who are critics on Rotten Tomatoes. We're gonna keep it cute that way. But a great example of that is in Detroit, where all the people who I knew was like, nah, this ain't it, were Black critics. Not all of them were Rotten Tomato critics, but the ones who are Black critics was like, I'm good. But we see what the score is because realistically, we are not the majority when we're talking about the aggregate of that, which is unfortunate because I think it would have saved a lot of people a lot of time. Additionally, you look to see how much Detroit did their first weekend. Kidnap beat it. So that's saying a lot.
Stop giving Halle Berry kids to lose on screen. So the funny thing about that is, it started off at 100%. And the reason why it started off 100%, there weren't any Black critics. Once the Black critics got to it, even the ones that were on Rotten Tomatoes, once the Black critics or even the Black critics who weren't Rotten Tomatoes, I think... So, okay, now you're going to see, you're trying to be positive, but now you're going to be on my Rotten Tomatoes rant. So here's a couple things about Rotten Tomatoes. One, critics are human beings like us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Critics, and unless they write their review early, critics will be swayed. They'll either be swayed by the general consensus of people or other critics who, I try to avoid this myself, reading too many other reviews before doing my own review.
Right, because you don't want to be the odd guy. You don't want to be the actually guy.
Well,
nobody wants to be that.
Well, not only that, but I don't want their opinions coloring mine. There's a few other times I've done that where I'm just like, I don't know what to say, so I need to see what other people were saying to make sure I'm not crazy. So there's a couple of times like that, but most of the time I try to do it, at least get my own thoughts out there first. The other thing, too, is some of them just go with the flow. Oh, okay, it's pile-on. Everybody's shitting on this movie. I'm going to shit on it, too. Or everybody's saying this movie's good. I'm going to say this movie's good. Ghost Story. It's a terrible fucking film, folks.
Right. And that's another thing. I hear you, and I think it is a problem. I also do think it's not necessarily an RT problem. Like, I don't think it's a Rotten Tomatoes problem. I honestly think it's, yo, who are you hiring to be in your publication? Because a lot of these people write reviews, but they're not putting the nuance and the thought into it that I see Black critics typically, at least the ones in my circle, do. Like, when I'm writing a review, I'm like you. I try to, and I'm just new to this, so take that with a grain of salt. I avoid other people's reviews. Like, when I was writing my first review on Rotten Tomatoes was Step, which I gave it a 5 out of 5. Go see it. And I loved that film. Obviously, my personal coloring on it is going to be put in because it's Black girls succeeding, and I'm a Black girl who wants to see other Black girls succeeding. So obviously, that's going to be a part of where my number comes in, or like where I net out to in terms of my score. But I think there's a difference between, as a person of color and a part of a marginalized group, wanting to, critically like go through each movie as such, versus you as like a standard white male critic kind of just like going with the flow and trying to be like fake deep with your wording, like with a Ghost Story or like with a Detroit, where I'm just like, I feel like you're really missing the point, which is why we need more of those diverse stories, not only just outside of Rotten Tomatoes, definitely inside of the Rotten Tomatoes kind of sphere, but outside of that, because a lot of them miss the mark. I'm just going to be honest. And a lot of these larger publications are hiring people that miss the mark. And so I'm always wondering, like, so where's your growth? Like, how are you growing your publication forward? Which is just a pet peeve of mine as a new critic.
Well, they do that. And the other problem too is, this is actually my pet peeve with superhero films when they do this.
Yep.
You have to be aware of who the critic is, not the outlet. Because what happens with Rotten Tomatoes is, hey, IGN says that, Batman vs. Superman is trash, and this movie's trash. But you realize that it's Batman vs. Superman is a good movie, and Civil War is a terrible movie. You then look at it and you're like, it's two different reviewers. It's the same outlet, but two different reviewers. And then you also find that, and publications are known for this. You look at that reviewer who gives a superhero film that's getting great, like let's say a Civil War, which overwhelmingly got great reviews, right? Mm-hmm. And you're trying to figure out why this one critic from this big outlet didn't like the film. You go through their rest of their reviews, and you find out that they don't review superhero films. They review art house films, and they don't like superhero films. So you're like, why did you assign this person to review a film that you know they weren't going to like? Oh, you wanted the hits to get the thing, that goes into the publications, like, y'all got to do a better job of like picking and choosing who's doing your reviews. Black Girl Nerds, what I love about it, because most of us aren't individually, which I think most publications are, we're not individual critics under Rotten Tomatoes. We're under the umbrella of Black Girl Nerds. So I am a Rotten Tomatoes critic under Black Girl Nerds. But there's a few of us, so we kind of get to pick and choose what films we want to see. Most of it is, hey, I had an interest in this film, and this is why. And kind of Jamie lets us be like, all right, cool, looking forward to seeing your review. And some of us definitely internally have dissenting review opinions on individual films that if they're an individual critic, will write it on another site and be like, I wasn't feeling it, and this is why, or I liked it, and this is why. What I like about it is, again, it's always going back to that nuance piece. If you're an art house person, why would you waste your time on a superhero film? And I'm not saying that as an art house person, you can't appreciate a superhero film, but I think there's certain nuances to each type of genre that if you don't understand it, I feel like you're just wasting your time. And again, to your point, Kriss, like, just doing it for the views, to me, it doesn't make sense. I'm not going to spend time watching a film just so I can write something bad about it. Like, that's just not my personality. Like, I don't hate watch things. I just feel like that's so unnecessary. I'm way too, I'm now at that place where I'm just like, girl, I'm too old. Like, what? Like, hate watching things is so stupid to me. And that's just my opinion. But to waste your time watching something is the difference between you going in and being like, oh, I don't know what this film's going to be. And then netting out and being like, oh, no, fuck this film. Versus you deliberately knowing you don't fuck with films like this, hate watching it, so you have this certain vendetta against it, and then writing a review about it. That's so childish. I'm just over it. I've gotten to the point where we've turned down films because they're too far away, and I'm like, I know it's going to be trash. Like, The Mummy was like an hour away from me, and I'm like, I don't know about that one, guys.
And you know what? I can't do that. That's more than fine. Like, I knew for me personally, I wasn't gonna review Detroit because something in my spirit was telling me I'm not gonna like this.
Right.
Quite frankly, just from the beginnings of I don't see any Black women in this film.
Right.
Now I get it that it's based on Algiers Motel. I get why there isn't one.
No,
I always just felt weird about it because if you're naming it Detroit, Black women are in Detroit. Additionally, I also felt very funny about Catherine Bigelow directing this film and that a white person was writing this film too. I don't really bang with, and I'm not saying that you can't do it, but something about a serious type of story like this, where you're everybody kind of in the writer's room and the director is white, just felt really weird to me because you're directing Black people to mimic and imitate pain, true pain.
So what I want you to do right now is I want you to really look really pained when he calls you nigger and then hits you upside the head with the butt of his.
You see what I'm saying? Like I just something about that just makes me feel icky. Where I was just like, I'm good. And I listened to you and Phenom's review, and it was just 40 minutes of me just nodding my head at the laundromat listening to it because I was like, you're absolutely right. And that's why I didn't watch it. I was like, I'm gotten to the point where I can't in good conscience spend money on seeing Black pain, especially when it's done in a white lens and it's really a film for white folks. Like I'm good on that. So that's why I was like, I'm stepping back. Instead, I went to go see Step, which I cried more than once seeing that film. I love that film. I went and paid money for that film. That's how much I love that film. I paid full price. I paid $17 at a New York theater that was not matinee
$17
to support Step.
$17 is the price for a full movie in New York?
For a full ticket in downtown Manhattan at like 5:00 on a Friday, it was definitely $17.
See, you're about to get me on my I hate New York rant again, and I know I tried to do that when you're on
here's
because
the
I
thing.
know you're
like,
from New York, and
usually my secret is this is my secret. My secret is that when I usually go see films that I think should be supported, especially Black films, I usually go during matinee on a Saturday. So I'll do a 10 a.m. screening at the Magic Johnson Theater, which is walking distance from my home. At like 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. and it's $7. That is more in my price range. That way y'all are getting my money, but you're not getting all of my money.
Right.
I did that for Get Out, which seeing Get Out, and it was a packed 10 a.m. Saturday screening with Black folk. Somebody got into a fight before the film happened.
Oh, that's always. Hey,
we're yelling at the screen.
That just tells me you got your money worth. You got your money worth. You got your money's worth.
I got my worth. It was worth every penny. That's my thing.
You got a pre-show show, so it's fine.
Right.
Pre-show entertainment.
I enjoyed Step so much that I was like, I'll spend the $17 to see it at 5:00 on a Friday downtown Manhattan.
Yeah, we the Step screener was, I think it was. Phenom went to go see it, but I know what it was. There was an interview session with I can't remember who it was that was going to be for the interview session for it, but we had flown out. We were going to be flying out to San Diego, so I couldn't do it. That's always the weird thing about San Diego. It's like there's always something that's happening that comes up that week when we come back when we're flying to San Diego. I'm like, damn it, can't do that. So yeah. So well, that's good.
I'm learning as a Rotten Tomatoes critic, but like. We also been doing some cool stuff. Like the collaboration with Netflix was really dope. Getting to write more. If you guys weren't aware, I was doing a limited series podcast off of The Bachelorette this season because it's the first time in 15 years they've had a Black lead. And I hated every minute of that show. That show was awful. But on the plus side, we got written, me and Jacqueline, my co-host, who's also a writer for Black Girl Nerds, got written in Think Progress about our feelings as Black women watching the Bachelorette, which was cool.
That's good.
So I've had a great summer, but it's just certain things have been taking me out of my game. I just want to start it with that positivity.
No, I'm glad, because it goes downhill from there. We'll come back up when we start talking about stuff like we're definitely gonna do the Black Woman shout out this week, and we're finally getting back into the Do You Even Sci-Fi Bro, and we'll have some fun, I guess, towards the end, I guess. And we have a Sam Jackson story that I didn't do last week. So yeah, we'll have some stuff. We'll get there. We'll get there. But let's get right into Charlottesville. So I you know the thing that's bothering me, like, since we're doing this, it's been all the people going, "This isn't us." Yeah.
Okay. Let me stop my time. Let me start with this. I've had many a train of thoughts on Twitter, if you guys follow me, the last couple of days, and I've been trying to disengage. I really have, but it's genuinely been hard.
Hard.
Let me start with, we're going to start with the tippy top of This Is Not Us. And the annoyance I have of white allies trying to wash their hands clean of how they benefit from white supremacy, even though they're not out there with tiki torches from Walmart, which y'all not going to do, is make this about you. When you start saying this is not us, you're trying to recenter the conversation on you. And this is not what it's for. The center should always be on marginalized groups who, through the actions of these white neo-Confederates, and I'm calling them neo-Confederates now, not neo-Nazis. I have feelings about using the term Nazi and us trying to like pivot it towards as if these people are learning from German Nazis, whereas German Nazis really learned from Americans how they were typically like rolling and how they went down just based on timing. The KKK was around longer than Adolf Hitler was in his Nazi movement. So let's make that clear. So because of that, when you're starting to focus on on you and how guilty you feel, you're completely missing the point of what we've been saying from the beginning. So it goes back to your allies ain't your allies. And I feel like we've been saying this, like a lot of y'all are very performative, and I'd rather you just not say anything, to be truthful.
So, the funny thing that's been getting me about the whole this isn't us thing, and my grandfather didn't die in Germany for this, and I'm like, oh, actually kind of he fucking did. So I'm gonna take it back a little bit further. So I've been seeing a lot of, there's been a lot of discussion on the HBO show Confederate, the no Confederate hashtag and things like that, right? And like I've been staying out of it because I'm just like, listen, at this point, either the show's going to happen and the protests, the boycott, things like that are going to make it a better show, or they're not going to do it. Like at that point, I'm okay with either one at this point. So like, I'm not dying on the hill for the Game of Thrones showrunners who didn't even know what rape was. Took them 5 seasons to understand what rape was. So like maybe they gotten better, maybe they figured it out. Whatever. At this point I don't care. But I've been seeing a lot of articles coming out, which I thought was actually kind of weird that and I love Ta-Nehisi Coates, but I found it weird that when he made the argument, all of a sudden people got it. Like,
listen,
kind of weird.
And not even that I don't love Ta-Nehisi, because I do, but the no Confederate hashtag was made strictly by Black women. One of the Black women who was a part of making that hashtag was Jamie, who's the founder of Black Girl Nerds. So I did feel a way about when Black women have been on the ground kind of doing the groundwork on the social media aspect of making the hashtag. Everybody had a lot of things to say, but then magically everybody got it after Ta-Nehisi.
So, but one of the things that, like, even in his argument that was kind of, and it was, everybody was making this argument, and it was kind of bothering me, and I didn't want to say anything because I was like, I don't necessarily agree with this, but this is one of those things where you can learn from me, all right? Even if there's something that you don't agree with, but you don't agree with the entire, you agree, I agree that people should be out there if they don't really want to see the show, protest it, boycott it, do whatever you got to do. I don't care, right? I had a little sticking point though with one of the things that people were saying, but I was like, it's not enough for me to get into trouble with people thinking that I actually, think that they're being wrong for protest. So I didn't say anything. But the thing that happened this week with Charlottesville kind of made me bring it back, and it kind of goes to what you were saying about not calling these people Nazis. And the problem was when people were coming up, and the argument was, why isn't the man in the high castle the same as Confederate? And I really disagree with people's argument that it's different because, Germany was like, no, you can't be a Nazi. Like, that's illegal. And that's true that Germany did that. The problem is, Man in the High Castle is written by a white guy from America. And it's an American show. And I think what we're trying to do is put on the fact that, yes, Germany dealt with Nazis. America never fucking did. And Nazis have become this thing. Nazis are the perfect video game villain. They are perfect. Nazis and Hitler they're great for that. It's like, oh, wow, Nazis were evil. They were the evil the world's never seen before. We defeated them. It was over. It was done with. That was great. Over and done. That's what happened. America came in. We stopped the Nazis. We fought against Nazis. We stopped the Holocaust. That's what happened. That's a complete rewrite of history. Because the thing about Nazis in Germany was there were a lot of Americans that actually thought that Hitler guy had some good ideas.
Listen, I have things to say about this. So one of the threads I was talking about is there was a hashtag that was made yesterday called comics hates Nazis.
Oh yeah.
So people were doing imagery of comics and history of superheroes punching Nazis. And I kind of went on just like my personal feelings and my frustrations with the hashtag. And I kind of talked about how I appreciate the hashtag more if it wasn't putting Americans in the savior light, because most of the superheroes that are punching Nazis are American superheroes, or ones that are not necessarily from America. So like a Wonder Woman, for example, is not from America, but has lived a long amount of time in America, or like a Superman who's not from America. He's by definition an immigrant, but has lived his life in America. So you have American citizens and American superheroes who are punching Nazis in the face. And I'm like, ooh, here's the thing about that. We've made Nazism this mythical thing that white, specifically mostly white American superheroes have to come and save the day. But realistically, dude, how many comics that we've had of American superheroes punching the KKK besides Black Panther, and Black Panther's not American? Like, how many comic book characters have we had that are American punching corrupt cops? But yeah, Sam Wilson with the AmeriCorps, and I think Batman did something.
They're all recently
on that. Listen, like on that. So it's these situations where it's like, you're right. We make Nazis this mythical like boss character that we must defeat. And I'm like, but you got to fix your own home before you try to tell somebody else that their home is messed up.
But my thing is,
that works.
But my thing is, it's worse than that. It's worse than that. The thing about it is, yeah, we need to address the Confederacy and stuff like that. But I think the problem I have is that people try to separate what German Nazis did from the difference between the white supremacy here. And to me, it's all the same. And it's so much the same that like the lead up, like before World War II, the lead up to that, there were American Nazis. There's an American Nazi party. What was it called? It was hold on, I have it here. It is the German American Bund, headed by his leader Fritz Kuhn, thrived from 1936 to 1939. They claimed they had 200,000 members. It wasn't that much. Their American Legion said that it was up to like 25,000 members. They had summer camps for kids. There were Nazi summer camps here in America in the 30s for kids.
And I don't disagree with you at all. I think how I viewed it was more of, I think some people are using the terminology Nazis to disassociate it from the Americanness, which is where I have been seeing some of that turning into, especially with like the comics hate Nazis hashtag from what I saw. Because a lot of it was American superheroes actually punching German Nazis, like Hitler, like that type of visuals. Yeah. Where I was just like, wait a minute now. And you're right. Like there have definitely been American Nazi parties, but I think there's a difference between knowing the nuances of, yeah, there are definitely American Nazis versus trying to disassociate the Americanness of what happened at Charlottesville. You see what I'm saying? Well, like that's how I viewed it.
Well, and I think the problem is because we dissociate the idea that the Nazis are a specifically German thing.
Exactly.
And that's where I need people to understand that it's not that, Hitler didn't just lead. He didn't start out the gate with we're going to gas the Jews. There was it was a heavy anti-Semitism coming out of Germany, and the American public, American politicians, and American businesses went, fuck it. The Americans, we denied asylum to German Jews. We did. We saw what was going on. There were a lot of Americans, be it Confederate Americans, everyday, working class Americans. There were not German American Nazis in America. The white Americans looked at them and was like, they're Jews. Fuck them.
Yep.
You know what?
Yep.
Hey, you know what? That Hitler guy over there, you know what? He's not entirely wrong about Jews. Right. Like there's a lot of that going on there, and that not entirely wrong about Jews, not too far from not entirely wrong about niggers. You know, all that stuff is the same, and we tend to sit there and again use these German Nazis and pretty much Hitler, right?
Yes,
because
exactly.
I'm gonna get later on into it's certain Nazis because some of them we allowed to become the head of NASA. We look at them as like they're the bad guys, but we agree with some of the things he said. Like, what was it, Henry Ford? Yeah, Henry Ford was like, that Hitler guy over there got a couple of good ideas, which is not too different from what you hear from Republicans when we were talking about like Trump. Remember that? Like, Trump. Yeah, I know he's playing around with the KKK and these white supremacists, but I like his ideas on business. You know, that Henry Ford. A lot of other white American businessmen, a lot of white American politicians at the time going, hey, well, you know, okay, Hitler, he's talking about killing the Jews. That's a little too much there, but I understand I understand your idea of being a little, you know, mistrusting of them because, you know, they're Jews. So it's
that's what I'm talking about in terms of that disassociating that Americanness, because realistically, both in the U.S. and Germany definitely co-opted each other on ideas. Oh yeah, you can't tell me otherwise. Yeah. Like, you can't tell me that just like how we definitely have American Nazis here, you also can't tell me that Germany didn't get and lift and shift a lot of their kind of ideas and tactics from how we were treating Black folk and other people of color in America. Yeah, like it's all coming from the same root of evil, and that's what boggles my mind when we have, to your point, like we have this unilateral kind of image and symbolism of Nazi Germany being Hitler, and in our comics and in our visuals having them getting punched in the face by Americans. And I'm like, well, like you can't, I think it's easier for people to swallow the fact that, oh, there's an outside evil force that we must protect. It is like, okay, but that same evil is in your home. It's in your backyard. These are American soldiers who went and fought the Nazis and pat themselves on the back, but then came home and made sure that they were part of the process to continue Jim Crow, to stop civil rights movements. Like, that's what? Like, huh?
You know, people were seeing the images of there was that one image from yesterday where they were marching, white dudes were marching, they had the Nazi flag, they had a Confederate flag, and they were marching. People were like, I can't believe this. And here I am, I'm looking at an image, literally an image of 1937 of in New York, and there's American Nazis marching. One of them has an American flag, other one has a Nazi flag. And granted, you know, this is, you know, before the shit got real, if you will. But this was happening, and it's not like these people, these American Nazis, were saying things that were different. They were being racist back then, but because being racist is the American way, it was fine. It was more weird that they were having nationalistic ideas of Germany in America. That's more of the problem that people were having with them. Not the idea they were being, you know, racist to Jews or racist to black people. That wasn't the fucking problem. Some people go, oh, my grandfather didn't die. Yeah, he fucking did. Your grandfather did fucking die for this shit because America's always been this way. You know, it's not any fucking different. These people have done that shit. You know?
And that's the thing, like, people rewrite history. Let's not forget, during World War II, there were segregated military groups based on ethnicity, where just like how your granddaddy fought in World War II, he wasn't fighting with the black folk.
And he didn't
got segregated.
And he didn't want black folks to have the right to vote, because when they came back, here's the thing: I didn't fight in World War II for this. So when you came back, you fought for racial justice then, so that black people had the right to vote? Oh, you did.
Did your granddaddy stopping when they were like, we're going to have separate units just for the black folk because they're niggers? Did they? When did they do that? When? Let me know. Like, the revisionist history is just so wild to me, because again, it's all about that visual of this is an outside evil. America is better than this, dude. During the war,
right? And so like going back to the Confederate thing, like. My thing wasn't that, you know, I think that the good point is that, yes, you know, Germany came to terms because they lost and they were forced to come to terms with the ideas. And then they put a foot down saying, hey, listen, we are not going to allow this anymore. What's going on? America never did. So we never did that for the Confederacy. We never did that for slave owners. We never did, and we definitely didn't do it for Nazis. So we never did any of that stuff. And so I don't think that I think it's a good argument to say that, hey, you don't want to see the show because America has never come to terms with this stuff. That's a fine argument. I think that we shouldn't separate Nazis from that. Like we took them all in. And America's always done that. Like, yeah, we take in immigrants, we steal other people from other countries and things like that. We're a melting pot, but we really put at the top of that melting pot racist. We always have. And nothing says that more than, and this is what would drive me fucking crazy. Cause I'm like, this is all stuff that's known. Like, I studied history in college, and like, it's no money in it. So obviously I did computer instead. But I always found fascinating things like Operation Paperclip. You know, where it was a secret program to bring in 1,600 German scientists into this country, most of them Nazis. You know, you had Wernher von Braun, who was the V2 rocket, the rocket guy. That guy later on becomes the head of fucking NASA. We let a Nazi become the head of NASA and almost gave him a Medal of fucking Freedom. Jimmy Carter almost gave this man a Medal of Freedom. And then somebody in it was like, hey, well, you do know he was a Nazi, so maybe you shouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. But we gave him NASA. Like, this is what we've done. We've always done. So when people go, oh, we didn't, this is not us, we didn't fight. Yeah, you fucking did. Yeah, sure. The bad guy Nazis, you executed, you hunted down, you said, oh, these are fine. But you found things like, well, you know, von Braun was known to use slave labor for the rockets. Well, you know, wasn't gassing Jews, and we use slave labor too, so it's okay. You know, it became the idea that, you know, America wanted, you know, it was the arms race after the World War II, and not in, if you're British, you had your own little operation to do the same thing. You didn't, it was between Great Britain, US, and the Soviets about trying to get as much of the technology, because if there was one thing other than killing Jews that the Nazis were good at, they were really good at technical stuff. They were really good at rockets. They had some really great scientists. Then again, if you take away, you know, human rights and stop doing human experiment, you allow human experimentations, you can probably get a lot of things done a little bit faster than everybody else.
Also, World War II soldiers who were black were also experimented on.
Yeah.
What was your racist granddaddy doing about that?
Yeah. So we brought in these scientists, and we basically said, sure, you've done a lot of horrible things, but we really want that formula you have on, you know, V2 rockets.
Because at the end of the day, like, and this is really what it boils down to. At the end of the day, what America is known for is taking whatever labor they can from whoever they think they have a right to take to propel what they want forward, whether it be slave labor, whether it be co-opting indigenous people's homes, or even taking the intelligence or collaborating with the intelligence of Nazi scientists. Mm-hmm. Like, whatever you can do to propel you forward, they don't care. They'll do whatever they need to get that labor, free or otherwise. Yeah.
During the Ford administration, von Braun was almost awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom until one of Ford's senior advisors, David Gergen, objected to this Nazi pass. Almost gave him a Medal of Freedom. Less well known is that another 120 fellow German scientists, engineers, and technicians developed the Saturn V launch vehicle, or that launch operation center at Cape Canaveral, Florida, was headed by Kurt DeBus, an ardent Nazi. Like, we've always done this. Like, so when people go, oh, my grandfather didn't fight. Yeah, he actually did. He fought so that we could bring Nazi scientists over here and lead the space race. Like, that's what happened. Like, so it's black women help us get to the moon, but also Nazis. Because that's what we did. And so, because that's also, and it goes back to just the Confederate thing, we've never come to terms with that, because we always find, and I'm saying we as in America, not we as in black America, so separate that out there, because we don't do this shit. But we always find a way to excuse this shit to allow it to happen. And so you get, when people are sitting here going, how did we get to the point where Nazis are, you know, people with Nazi flags are marching down, you know, the streets? I'm like, they've been doing this. This has been happening. The government brought them over here. But beyond that, you have all this Confederacy stuff. It just hit me when we're talking about, you know, Robert E. Let me see. I had an article on this. Let me see if I can find it. Because the whole thing yesterday was shit started on Friday. Was built around the idea of them taking down.
They were taking down that Confederate statue of Robert E. Lee.
Yes.
Like literally, they were that upset about the statue.
Yeah,
coming down.
Oh, come on, let me pull this up here.
Not because their folks were dying in the streets.
No.
Not because their water was going to be poisoned. Not because their rights and healthcare as military and veterans were jeopardized. Not because they were going to get deported for no reason or separated from their families, but because of a statue.
Yeah. So, what the these racists try to say is, General Lee, he was a great man, and he wasn't really for that slavery stuff. He was just a great tactician and all this other stuff. Yeah, no. Lee was a slave owner. His views on slavery were stated in an 1856 letter that is often misquoted and gives the impression that Lee was some kind of abolitionist. In the letter, he describes slavery as a moral and political evil, but goes on to explain that I think it is, however, a greater evil to white man than to the black race. And while that slavery is a greater evil to the white man than the black race. And while my feelings are strongly enlisted in the belief of the latter, my sympathies are more strong for the former. The blacks are immeasurably better off here than in Africa, morally, socially, and physically. The painful discipline that they are undergoing is necessary for their instruction as a race, and I hope will prepare and lead them to better things. How long their subjugation may be necessary is known and ordered by a wise, merciful providence. Their emancipation will sooner result from the mild and melting influence of Christianity than the storms and tempests of fury controversy. Yeah, sounds a great guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah, no. The key term here is the instruction of the race, which is another nice way of saying, the whites know best.
Yeah.
You must civilize us because we're just nothing but savages.
Oh, we would never be able to survive in Africa, because how do black people in Africa live now? Like, there's no way they could survive without, as Trump would put it, he's like, they're living in hell, because that's what all Africa is. Not a continent, it's a country. Lee's cruelty as a slave master was not confined to physical punishment. In The Reading Man, the historian Elizabeth Brown Pryor portrait of Lee through his writings. Pryor writes that Lee ruptured the Washington and Curtis Custis tradition of respecting slave families. The fact that this woman, the fact that you even write that line is already just driving me fucking crazy. But I get what she's trying to say here, but it's just like a little oxymoron right there. By hiring them off to other plantations, and that by 1860 he had broken up every family but one on the estate, some of whom had been together since the Mount Vernon days. The separation of slave families was one of the most unfathomable, devastating aspects of slavery, and Pryor wrote that Lee's slaves regarded him as the worst man I've ever seen. Lee's heavy hand on the Arlington plantation, Pryor writes, nearly led to a slave revolt, in part because the enslaved had been expected to be freed upon their previous master's death, and Lee had engaged in a dubious legal interpretation of his will in order to keep them as his property, one that lasted until a Virginia court forced him to free them. When two of his slaves escaped and were recaptured, Lee either beat them himself or ordered the overseer to lay it on well. Wesley Norris, one of the slaves who was with, recalled that not satisfied with simply lacerating our naked flesh, General Lee then ordered the overseer to thoroughly wash our backs with brine, which was done. Every state that succeeded mentioned slavery as a cause in the Declaration in succession. Lee's beloved Virginia was no different, accusing the federal government of perverting its powers, not only in the injury of people of Virginia, but in the oppression of southern slaveholder states, which just goes back to, everybody saying that we weren't fighting to hold on to our slavery. Yeah, you kind of were. And just to say this, the North wasn't fighting to free slaves. They just didn't want to lose they didn't want the South to have an economic advantage.
Yeah, I have a lot of issues and thoughts about when we start talking about kind of like regional rights versus the North versus the South, Midwest, whatever, and kind of a bit of a revisionist history on that too. Listen, it don't matter what area these white folks from, there were still ones, even in New York and in the Northeast, that definitely wanted your ass enslaved.
Yeah. Oh, here's one thing. During his invasion of Pennsylvania, Lee's army of North Virginia enslaved free blacks and brought them back to the South as property. Pryor writes that evidence links virtually every infantry and cavalry unit in Lee's army with the abduction of free black Americans with the activity under the supervision of senior officers.
Yep.
Soldiers under Lee's command at the Battle of Crater in 1864 massacred black Union soldiers who tried to surrender. Then in a spectacle hatched by Lee's senior corps commander, A.P. Hill, the Confederates paraded the Union survivors through the streets of Petersburg to the slurs and jeers of the Southern crowd. Interesting thing about A.P. Hill. In high school, I was in ROTC, JROTC, junior ROTC. There's a summer camp that they used to do for ROTC, high school students, right? You know where it was at? Fort A.P. Hill in Virginia. Yeah, we have a fort named after A.P. Hill, senior corps commander for Robert E. Lee. Yeah, we have that's Fort A.P. Hill. So so this is the guy that statue they want to take down, but white nationalists are upset about. We're taking away their heritage, which seems like a terrible heritage you want to remember. Unless you're a shitty person and you're actually a racist. But they say they're not racist, but they actually are.
And that's my thing. Like, when you're talking about, like, this is taking away our heritage, it's like, that says a lot about you that you want to keep this. Like, out of everything in the world you could keep, you want to keep this? Okay. All right, girl.
Yeah. They want to keep that's the thing they want to keep. This is the interesting thing. So and we said it before. There was they were talking about the show. There was, I think it was New Orleans. They were taking down some statues as well, and they had to have snipers and military armed guards out there because they were afraid of being attacked for taking these things down. They actually blacked out the names, the company names on the trucks, so they knew that those company trucks would be face retribution if they didn't do that. Like, this is how bad it is, right?
But I think it's just like, I think people are really trying to excuse what is, I think, basic math, where it's just like, hey, if there have been KKK marches in the last 2 years, we could even do as of yesterday when they came in the shields and their armor and whatnot, and they're protesting against Robert E. Lee. And they're holding the Confederate flag as their symbol to defend racism. Why would you think that was a symbol of heritage versus a symbol of hate? I just feel like that's basic math. If I am coming to whatever protest I'm coming to with a specific random flag, and everyone I go to is a symbol of what I feel, you would probably be like, okay, that's Joy's symbol of what she's protesting for. I just feel like that's basic comprehension.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's because I don't care, and the reason why you don't care is, and my whole thing about going through all this stuff and bringing up like the idea of what we did with Nazi Americans or Nazis that we brought over here and literally infiltrated and let them. I put it this way: people say that we fought a war, and it was driving me fucking crazy. We fought a war to beat back the Nazis, and we fought this, and we said that we don't stand for that. And I'm like, but if you think about it, if you ignore the idea that the true monsters, because they were monsters, were found and executed, or killed themselves like Hitler, fine, but the Nazi ideals, just like the Confederate ideals, just like their white, because it's all white supremacy when you put it all together, it lives on. Like, it won. It didn't lose in World War II. And I just feel like it's kind of like when people try to say that, oh, well, the Civil Rights Act passed, racism was over. Or when white people do this thing where every time we hit a milestone, they think it's the end of the race, right? It's, oh, well, we fought the Civil War, slaves are free, it's over, racism is over and done with. They're like, no, it's not. Oh, well, we passed the Civil Rights Act, you guys can vote, and you guys have equal rights. It's over, right? No, it's not. We elected Barack Obama, so obviously you guys, got to be president, so now we're equal, racism's over, right? No, it's not. Same thing happened with the Nazis. Like, oh, we beat the Nazis, it's over, it's done with, right? No, it's not. You guys literally hired these people and allowed them to live. You gave them new lives. You took them. You literally
you covered them.
You paid them. You assimilated them in to American culture. They were like, shit, we were doing it all wrong. We should have done like America did. We just integrated into the America society, and they'll pay us for this. They'll give us jobs. They'll put us into high places. Like I said, running NASA, almost getting a Medal of Freedom as a Nazi. Like we'll do all this stuff. Oh, we won. And then you sit there and wonder how this stuff happens. It's like it's been happening. You guys always do this. You guys always try to find, like, they treat white supremacy and racism like it's a video game. Mm-hmm. Like it's one of those video games you can beat. And it's not. It's like it's an MMO. It's one of the games. It never ends. It keeps going. Like, because you have to actively fight it. You have to actively try. You can't sit back and go, oh, well, we won that game and it's over now and I guess we go and start a new one. No, it's continuing. Like, you have to stop. You sit here and you let these people vote for Trump. We get to, like, and I think even with Trump, and this is what I'm so worried about, because even with Trump, because he's so out there, once Trump is done, whether it's he's defeated in the next election, he gets impeached, or let's say, unfortunately, he runs his 8 years and he's gone. That's not the end of it, because what you see what Trump's doing now is he's now normalized so many people. Like, remember how a couple months ago they were writing about those articles about how the well-dressed alt-right.
Yes, that's like that was about Richard Spencer, and
right.
I was like, oh Lord.
And I was just like, the Nazis were well-dressed. They Nazis weren't some redneck yokels that wore overalls and with bare chests and had like like chewing on tobacco. That wasn't Nazis. They were well dressed. They were well groomed. They looked like Richard Spencer. Mm-hmm. Not all Confederate people were backyard rednecks. They weren't all like that. So like, your idea of what you're trying, it's like white America tries to find this perfect villain, and they need to have a villain in order to fight. And I'm like, the villain is your uncle. The villain is your father. Like, the villain is you.
That's my thing, where you hit on the head, Chris. One thing that I like to remind people is, so World War II ended in 1945, right? Mm-hmm. And the American people, to your point, they thought it was like a big boss game where you beat the big boss. We fought it. Let's go home. Well, Brown versus Board of Education didn't get enacted until 1954. So that was 9 years after you came back from fighting the big bad guy who was treating these people poorly, and you came back, and then you and your kids and you and your families were going to separate schools from black folk, and it was deemed constitutional. Yeah. Where were you there? Like, there's like, really, there's so many different bits and pieces that I think we forget about our own history.
Black GIs came home, they didn't have jobs. Yeah, black GIs came home, they still had to enter in the back door. Black GIs came home and they couldn't sit down on the counter and get, like, they couldn't do any of that shit. So what the fuck are you talking about?
And you guarantee you they didn't get the benefits that you got. And if they had children in school, or if they were young and going back to school, they had subpar education, they had subpar textbooks, subpar seating. It, like, really? Come on.
It drives me crazy, because it's like, you know this. You've lived this. Like every day, I can't believe we're seeing these images in 2017. You saw the images in 2016. You saw the images in 2015, 14. You saw them in 1996. You saw them in 1992. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
here's another thing that pisses me off when they were like, "Is this America now?" It's like, well, for the last few years, like a recent time, we've seen countless examples of black protesters being arrested, tear gassed, hit with rubber bullets. And the same people who would be like, "Is this America now?" is not saying that now, because when there are black and brown bodies on the ground trying to just fight to say, hey, maybe just not kill me for being black when I interact with you, cop person. Like, there's no, well, is this America now? I'm just over it.
I did find that interesting that, you had all these militias showing up. You had all these white people with guns literally showed up. These white people showed up with Imagine if black people did. They showed up with billy clubs and shields, right?
Yep.
And the cops were nowhere to be fucking found.
Yep.
Black
In
people
fact,
show.
I think it was ABC or CNN reported that it was deemed unsafe.
It was deemed unsafe, so they left.
Y'all really had all the strength and gusto to hand the rest of these black folks though.
Yeah,
like,
but black people show up with nothing, no, just as themselves, and you see cops show up with armored vehicles, decked out riot gear, sniper rifles, automatic weapons, tear gas, launching tear gas from military grade launchers, like all of this stuff happening. None of that shit happened.
Somebody also brought this up. Like, do you remember how many people got arrested during Ferguson for no reason, but like standing on their own property in their houses?
We saw D-Ray got arrested in, it wasn't Ferguson, but it was like Louisiana or something like that. He got arrested for walking on the street. Like you literally watched the stream happen, and he's like, "I'm being arrested. Why am I being arrested? You were in the street." They got arrested for that.
I'm saying. They only arrested like 4 people
after
during Charlottesville.
Yeah. Like I said, I look at it like, you know, we'll get more into like the Capitol off with the guy. I can't remember this fucker's name yet. Who drove his car into counter
killed someone
and killed somebody. I look at it. That's from the cops. She never gotten that far. She never. If you had control of the situation, like you had control of the situation in Ferguson, where you said, "Oh well, we have to put in Ferguson," they had to put press in designated press areas and designated press boxes to keep the peace. But somehow in Charlottesville, people were just walking around. Like, it was to the point where the media had to point out that the people that were armed and looked like what's in police gear weren't police. They were like, these are not cops. These are not police. These are not National Guardsmen. These are militia. And they won't answer why they're here. No cops around, right? It's just like, are you serious right now? Like, James Fields is this fucker's name. But it's like, what are you talking about? How are you guys not showing up in the same force? And you literally have people that we know up front are showing up for violence. They were throwing, like, they had their own pepper spray. They had weapons. They had shields. They were throwing things. I gotta remember when there was that one press conference that the black police chief, and it pissed me off so much in Ferguson. He made that one press conference like 2:00 in the morning, talking about why they had to fire tear gas, and they're like, because people were being rowdy. They were threatening our cops. One of my cops was hit with this here brick, and it was like a small ass brick. So he broke his leg. He broke his leg from the brick. No, he backed up and he fell on somebody else, and that's how he broke his leg. So he didn't break his leg from something that was thrown. He was a scaredy cat. Then there was a bottle of water that had been thrown. That's literally what he had on the table as evidence of them being attacked.
Yep.
We saw way more than that in Charlottesville. And even when the cops showed up, you didn't see cops, using excessive force. This is the one time this is the one time if cops use excessive force, I don't think anybody would care. If you ended up bashing a Nazi in the head, a neo-Nazi in the head, I don't think anybody's gonna. Maybe the ACLU will. We'll get into that later. But I don't think anybody else is gonna lose any sleep over that. They're not, because these are racists. These are bigots. Like, they're literally fighting against American freedoms. That's the one thing we're supposed to be for, right? Hey, if you're against American freedoms, you deserve to be smacked, right? Isn't that what isn't that what Trump said? But none of that happened. None of that seemed to happen. It was very, very interesting that happened. The thing that gets me about this is, like, people keep saying, "Oh, it's not us. It's what we're gonna do." The Oklahoma City bomb, 1995, right? Years ago. Timothy McVeigh was a racist. These white nationalist groups existed back then. They were behind training, Timothy McVeigh and giving him. Granted, he was also the military. He was a military guy, and we'll get into that in a minute. But he met with these groups. These groups still exist. These people were still around. They've ballooned into these other groups that we see here. Like, How can you say this is not us? It's always been us. This is what you guys have always done. You've always seen this. You know? The white people that yelled at black kids, the little black girls who were trying to integrate schools in the South. These are your aunts, your grandmothers. These are your people. How can you sit there and tell me this is not us? We're bigger than this. We've never been better than this. America has never shown me that they're better than this. Never.
No. And that's my thing. It goes back to why this is not us is super whack. I'm sorry. It's just a whack hashtag because this is not stories. These are not made up like fairy tales that black people are trying to tell you. These are lived experiences. And I'm not talking about like back during the civil rights era. I'm talking about today. I'm talking about you and me having to go to work and deal with microaggressions. I'm talking about seeing people who I know directly or indirectly, deliberately on camera, getting beat down and getting arrested for no damn reason outside of them trying to plead with police to not kill them and kill their loved ones. And we're trying to tell you that this is what it's always been because history has a way of repeating itself. And you go on and be like, well, it's not me, so this is not us. It just is very, I wouldn't even say it's disappointing because I'm not disappointed because I'm not surprised, but right. It's so irritating and it's so aggravating. And I'm just tired because at the end of the day, I had a moment and I had an epiphany yesterday where this is not on me. I didn't start this, so I can't be the one to finish it.
Oh, not my
You need
my
to get
problem.
your cousins.
Yeah. Get your people. Get your
folks.
And again, like just, and I remember, I know we've talked about this before on the show, like years ago. This is before the show, but I know I've talked about this issue throughout the years. This is from the 2006 issue of Intelligence Report. It says 20 years ago this spring. This is from August 11th, 2006. 20 years ago this spring, Southern Poverty Law Center wrote a letter to Caspar Weinberger, then U.S. Secretary of Defense, to report that the active duty Marines at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, were participating in paramilitary Ku Klux Klan activities and even stealing military weaponry for Klan usage. Weinberger reacted with force, issuing a directive saying active participation in white supremacy, neo-Nazi, and other groups was utterly incompatible with military service. 10 years later, the random murder of a black couple outside of Fort Bragg, North Carolina by neo-Nazi skinheads in the 82nd Airborne Division sparked another round of soul-searching among military authorities. After congressional hearings were held and an Army task force reported on the problem, Defense Secretary William Perry amended the regulations to make clear that there was no room for extremists in the military. Now, I'm going to get into what happened next after this. But again, so that's 20 years ago from 2006. Mm-hmm. So it shows you the systemic issue. That this is not something that is just a handful of people, we didn't know it was a problem, and, I can't believe this is happening now. This is a known issue that's been going on and ongoing. All right? You have two instances here where the U.S. military had to react to the idea that there are white supremacists in there. And again, I know that there's always going to be some crazy person that ends up in the military some kind of way. I get that. Like, it's going to happen. But the fact that the Southern Poverty Law Center had to point this out, and that it got to the point that the military had to respond on two different occasions, should tell you this wasn't a small issue. This wasn't an isolated incident. It wasn't an isolated thing. This was a systemic problem that they had to root out. And apparently the military did. But then here's what's happening. Again, now it says, plus a day, and today means 2006. But today the nightmare is back. Facing intense pressure to meet manpower goals in Afghanistan and Iraq, some commanders and recruiters have relaxed the standards that Weinberger and Perry sought to impose. As reported in a remarkable cover story by David Holthouse, many neo-Nazis have served or are serving in Iraq. Hundreds anonymously proclaim their ideology in racist online venues. At a single base, Fort Lewis, Washington, 320 soldiers are involved in extremist activities, according to a Defense Department investigator, but just 2 of them have been discharged. How serious is the problem? According to the Defense Department investigator and others who spoke to the intelligence report, there are thousands of soldiers in the Army alone who are involved in extremist or gang activity. If that sounds high, it's worth remembering that a 1996 study found that 0.52% of soldiers interviewed by the military admitted to being members of the neo-Nazi or white supremacist group, a far higher percentage than in the general population. The ramifications are frightening. Timothy McVeigh, whose volcanic anger at government partly stemmed from his service in the First Gulf War, went on to murder 168 people. Others, such as then Green Beret Michael Tubbs of Florida, stole military weapons and explosives in a plot to attack black and Jewish targets. And still others emerged from the armed forces to teach high-level military skills to fellow extremists like white Patriot Party leaders did in the mid-1980s. Hate groups and neo-Nazi ideology routinely encourage their followers to join the military to hone their warrior skills. In the late 1990s, former Special Forces soldier and neo-Nazi leader Stephen Barry urged skinheads to join the infantry because the coming race war and the ethnic cleansing to follow will be very much an infantryman's war. It will be house to house, neighborhood by neighborhood, until your town or city is cleared and the alien races are hunted down.
So, but transgendered soldiers don't need health care.
Oh well, no, they represent. It's too hard. It's too hard to. It's too much trouble. We have to do studies and see if we can make transgender, servicemen and women.
By the way, did you see that Washington Post article where they found that Donald Trump's dad in Queens got arrested during a KKK rally?
No, I remember that happened during the campaign. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody brought that back. I never saw that, so somebody brought that back up yesterday on my timeline. I was like, okay.
No. Yeah, there's a reason why he's a racist motherfucker.
All right.
So,
cool.
Yeah, it's 2006, right? This also follows when, I think it was 2008 or 2009, when the Defense Department, I believe the Defense Department, said that there was a definite increase after the election of Barack Obama. There's a definite increase in white supremacist extremist groups, and yeah.
And this is, what does that say about your America that you think is so pure and didn't have a shitty history where you have these extremist groups being open and honest on their application forms for the military, and the military was like, nah. Well, we need to get soldiers out there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I remember talking about this because it was like one of those things that happened. I was like, during the Bush years, and I'm like, yo, like he's letting in people. They're letting in people who they know are racist because they need bodies.
They're not even like, it's not even like they are wearing different costumes. It is not even that they're using dermablend to hide their swastika tattoos. They really just like are out here being honest. Like, oh, are you?
Well, you know what it is?
Part of a skinhead group? And they're like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, what it is like I think they're not just out here admitting it like that. But I do think it's interesting that, put it this way. So this also comes on the heel now. This is, again, that was a 2006 report. This is 2017. There's this article about Trump's focus to counterterrorism program solely on Islamic sources. The Trump administration wants to revamp and rename a U.S. government program designed to counter all violent ideologies so that it focuses solely on Islamic extremists. 5 people briefed on the matter told Reuters. The program, Countering Violent Extremists, or CVE, will be changed to Countering Islamic Extremists or Countering Radical Islamic Extremists, the source said, and would no longer target groups such as white supremacists who have carried out bombings and shootings in the United States. So, they're going to be, and the reason for this is the way they were finding some of these people, I believe, wasn't just that people were admitting it, to them and going, hey, are you a white supremacist? Oh, yeah, I am. Just like you find out, like you always hear about this with ISIS and stuff like that, how ISIS uses the internet to recruit, and how ISIS, social media and things like that. Well, guess what, guys? It's not just ISIS. It's, white supremacy groups out here doing the same fucking thing. And the crazy thing about it is they've been doing it. When you read up on how Timothy McVeigh became so indoctrinated, it was everything he was doing. It was the gun show culture. It was, these little he was handing out the Turner Diaries. I think it was the white supremacist, like a Bible for them. Well, guess what? Now you can do it online, and we see that, right? As black people, you see that because you always get hit with those racist trolls, and we call them trolls, but they're really just regular people, right? There are these white supremacist groups. I remember growing up, it was Stormfront. We've moved so far beyond Stormfront at this point, right? These people are joining the military. They're getting trained. Yeah. Then they're coming out here. They're joining the military, one, because they want to be able to kill brown and black people. Let's be honest.
So here's my thing. So there's two things. Obviously, one, I am obviously being like facetious / joking about the like, oh, coming down and like, oh yeah, sure. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them were like that though.
Yeah, no, some of them do. Some of them do. Yeah.
There's definitely some who have been like up front and they just like.
Well, when your recruiters also KKK.
Right, like they're probably just been like they're in the chat rooms together. But I agree where you're coming from. Second thing is to bring up the Bachelorette. This is Lee and the Bachelorette this season. Let me tell you why. So for those of you who have never watched the Bachelorette, like I haven't up until this point, the first back lead in 15 years, Rachel was the lead for the Bachelorette this season. They had my man Lee, which shock, surprise, that's your name, white dude who was racist. And people found his tweets on Twitter, and he was very anti anybody who wasn't a white male. So he didn't like women. He said that the KKK and the NAACP are the same thing. He hated Muslim folks. He was homophobic. You take your pick, he was. We got Chris Harrison, who's one of the hosts of The Bachelorette, coming out and being like, of course we didn't put him on the show without doing a background check. What do you mean? We genuinely did not know. And obviously a lot of us were calling bullshit because it's like in 2017, ain't no way you got these dudes coming on as contestants of this show and not doing a background check on them, including social media, to find out what they're talking about. I say all that to say in terms of how this intertwine, they use the internet for this. And just like how Chris Harrison and ABC turned a blind eye to the racism and sexism and all the isms and obias that Lee was, the military is turning the blind eye too. If you do basic research, you can find what you need to find, but it's either you don't care or you agree with their ideology. And nobody wants to confront either scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So now you're putting people in harm's way, not only the people that you're fighting against, because these people are probably, I'd bet my salary on, taking this kill the Arabs, quote unquote, seriously, right? On top of that, you're also putting in harm's way fellow other soldiers who are part of marginalized groups. So transgender soldiers, Black soldiers, Latinx soldiers, Asian soldiers, gay soldiers. Like, you're putting a lot of soldiers who are fighting alongside these folks in harm's way. Because who's to say that they don't lose it, decide to take one of their guns while, let's say, a Black soldier, for example, is sleeping in their tent, and decide to shoot their brains out because that's how they feel.
Look, Timothy McVeigh was known for being racist in the Army. Like, there was still some the question of if he even executed some Iraqi when he was in the first Gulf War. Like, there's a question about that.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
these are things that happen.
You deliberately turn a blind eye and put these people in literal harm's way. Not only the people that you're quote unquote fighting against, but also the people that you're supposed to be fighting with.
Right. And so it's no different than that and say, let's say the police department. Because one of the things that people were like, where are the police at? Well, I was like, some of the police are probably there carrying torches on Friday night too. Because
somebody posted that cute, that funny Spider-Man meme where there's a picture of him and a picture. It's two Spider-Men and they point at each other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were like, and somebody said like the police stop it.
Yeah,
the neo-Nazi.
Well, because again, This is one thing I've been holding on this for a couple of weeks. It was going to be a great moment of white privilege, but I'm just going to say it now. DC cop under investigation for wearing a shirt with a KKK symbol on while on duty. An officer with the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C. has been accused of wearing a shirt with a racist symbol on it while he was on duty. He has been placed on non-contact status, depending on the department's investigation into the incident. Which to me is like, is he wearing the shirt? If he is, you fucking fire him.
Yeah,
there's no investigation that needs to go on with that, right? Anyway, Law for Black Lives, a group of lawyers who support the Black Lives Matter movement, told NBC Washington that, again, this is in D.C., that it filed complaints with the police department after seeing the officer identified as Vincent Altier wear the shirt in D.C. Superior Court and in the community. This motherfucker wore it in the D.C. Superior Court. That's how fucking bold they are. In a photo taken by the group, the t-shirt features a Grim Reaper featuring an MPD badge and holding a rifle. The D.C. flag is in the backdrop, and the words "Power Shift" and 7th District surround the Grim Reaper. In the place of the O, the word "Power Shift" is in place of the O in the word "Power Shift" is a Celtic cross, a symbol used by white supremacist groups such as the Ku Klux Klan. In small letters below the Reaper, the phrase "Let me see that waistband, Joe," appears. According to the Law for Black Lives, the short for jump outs, a more aggressive form of stop and frisk that targets men of color in searches for weapons. This is something that came up recently, too, about what was happening in D.C., their version of stop and frisk, which is jump outs. The shirt is offensive and indicates systemic bias in policing of people of color. The Law for Black Lives said in a statement, the white supremacy and insinuated threats of death should never be associated with or tolerated in police departments who are sworn to protect and serve. This is like when that police department put in the Punisher symbol on their police cars. I'm like, you guys do know the Punisher's not a hero, right? Like, not only is Marvel going to shoot the shit out of you, but Disney too, but the Punisher is not a hero. Like, why would you as a police officer want to be associated with a serial killer vigilante? Why would you want to be associated with that? Same thing with it wearing a Grim Reaper as a police officer. You're a goddamn police officer, not the fucking angel of death. What the fuck?
That's like, come on. Like, and again, these are areas that we're coming from. Like, Kriss is a DMV native. I am a New York native. You can't not like remove what's happening in the Northeast and say that it's just like a Southern or Midwest thing. That's super disingenuous, dog. Like,
Boston exists, first of all. So
I grew up in New York. Fuck the police has been a cyclical thing. My daddy's from the Bronx, just like I'm from the Bronx. He's been saying it. My granddaddy's from the Bronx. He's been saying it. Like, we try to make this like a regional thing to try to make everyone feel better about it, or try to say, well, I'm safe in this. Dog, nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. Eric Gardner got killed in Staten Island. My grandmother lives in Staten Island. Yeah. Like, dude, come on, stop this. Stop. Like, stop. I've gotten irritated with that because I've had to do a lot of unlearning on my end, having these notions that because I'm a native New Yorker and a lot of my life has been in the Northeast. So I went to college in Philly. I lived in Jersey, moved back to New York. I've been primarily in the Northeast all my life. That, oh, it just must be a Southern thing. And I really thought that growing up. And man, it took me a while to really start like breaking that stuff down and realizing that, it's definitely not a North and South thing. It's just like Black people are hated.
Yeah, well, I've talked about this before. I brought this up before. When I was in, I did internships at IBM over my summer when I was in college. And one year I went up to pick up my friend who was saying I was in, the IBM was located in Westchester County. I went up to Cornell to pick up my friend. I went to go Cornell University. So I'm driving up there to go there. There were houses out there around, where's Cornell? What is that location? I can't remember.
It's Ithaca.
Yeah, Ithaca. So I'm driving around Ithaca. There were houses out there in Ithaca that had Confederate flags.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's like, This is not just, you can't sit there and go, well, it's just the South and just some the ignoramus in the South. No, it's not. It's definitely not. Like,
listen, Boston, Massachusetts is in the Northeast. Boston is one of the most racist cities. Y'all gonna stop.
Yeah, it's fucking racist. The defense report is seeing other officers wearing the shirt, so it's likely not an isolated incident and it speaks to a larger problem. Again, these KKK people they're joining the cops, they're joining the military, they're doing all this stuff. They have existed for all this time. And honestly, now they're in the White House. You know, they're in the White House. You have people talk to Steve Bannon, but you bring up the guy, Sebastian Gorka, who shout out to Joanne Reed, who doesn't mince words when she's talking about Gorka. He's a Nazi. Like, and she doesn't mean that in like, oh well, you know, like she doesn't mean that in the sense of like we're talking about with these, you know, these new brand of not like Steven Spencer type Nazis. No, like he's literally, you know, his father was tied to right-wing groups that were Nazi sympathizers, Nazis. And then he wore at some event with Trump. He said it was to honor his father, but it was like literally like one of those things that's kind of the same thing worn by people who supported the Nazis. Like, what are you doing here? So, but Gorka recently came out. He's the one saying that the White House has been silent on the mosque bombings. Because remember, in all this stuff was happening, there was a mosque bombing. I think, was it Minnesota? Yeah, Minnesota. The White House will not officially comment on the bombing of Minnesota mosque because it may have been a hate crime faked by a liberal, according to Trump National Security Advisor Sebastian Gorka. Trump seems to comment on a lot of things before he gets to all the facts, but he's not going to comment on the mosque bombing because it could have been faked by liberals. Okay. I'm genuinely over it. Oh, but he's not finished. He said, White House advisor says that people should stop criticizing white supremacists so much. Wednesday, Gorka appeared on Breitbart News Daily, the radio show of his former employer. Gorka responded to criticism stemming from the previous media appearance on MSNBC, where he said there's no such thing as a lone wolf attack. The concept, according to Gorka, was invented by the last administration to make Americans look stupid. You know what, though? I'm going to agree with him on this one. I think we should get rid of the term lone wolf. Because lone wolf takes away the power. It's kind of like when you just sit there and go, blame everything. You try to say, oh, well, you know, Nazis and Hitler are just Germany. It kind of like it removes the context from that. And the context of this is lone wolves learn from somebody. Dylan Roof learned that information from somebody.
Like, how many times are we going to have these incidents where it's clear white terrorism that we're going to keep calling them lone wolves? You can't have 20 lone wolves, Kriss.
They're all lone wolves. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they came up with this. How did they get the idea that they hate Jews and black people are mud people? Like, where'd they get that from, Joy? I don't know. Maybe they just figured it out one day. They're lone wolves. Because you know it's not like wolves travel in packs. They're always lone wolves.
That, like, people don't know how to count. If there is more than 2 lone wolves, you know what that is a pack. That means no matter where they are,
that's 2 lone wolves. That's a tandem. That's a dynamic duo of lone wolves.
It's not a pack of wolves. Okay.
No, it's not a pack. No. Like last Friday night wasn't a pack of white supremacists. It wasn't. It was just a bunch of lone wolves having to walk around with tiki torches at the same time. That's all it was. What's a group?
I'm side note. Y'all are a bunch of scrubs. How y'all gonna have tiki torches? That part just really threw me off.
They couldn't even get real torches.
Dog, y'all couldn't even get real torches. Y'all did like a 3 for $10 pack at Walmart to get these torches.
But you know what? Honestly though, it makes sense. And I know you mean on the funny idea of they're just fucking whack. But it makes sense because you know what I think of tiki torches? I think suburban. I think everyday American. I think that's something that we all do. So it makes fucking sense. They had them pressed
polos and them chinos, and they were like,
it makes fucking sense.
We hate the black
It makes sense. It's just everyday American right fucking there. Everyday white American right there in your face. That's what they look like. That's what they are. Perfect. I'm like, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I will give them this. I thank them, and I'm thanking the alt-right, the neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, the whatever the fuck you want to call them. I just call them racists and bigots. I thank them for being out there like that so that white Americans feel uncomfortable. That's the thing that happened the last couple of days is white Americans felt so uncomfortable because these people look so normal. They look like I'm looking at one thing on Twitter where they found one of the guys, and his name is James Alsop, speaker of the alt-right rally, Washington State University College Republicans president.
Yeah, and that's another thing. A lot of things. One thing that also made white folks uncomfortable was that they were so young. They were college students.
I know, but they were supposed to die out.
I know.
I thought we just waited long enough.
Yeah, you know how I felt about that. Here's what I agree with you. I have to thank them for dressing like that. I think someone said it best on social media, specifically on Twitter, where it talks about you now have to confront the fact as a white person that you probably saw somebody you knew in those pictures, and you gotta eat that because you know in your heart of hearts that they're out there not wearing hoods. That tells me that you are not ashamed of what you are doing, which also tells me that the interactions that you have with fellow white people, you are talking that talk with them too. So if you see somebody that you know or recognize in these pictures, that you are just as accountable because you knew they felt like this and you just thought it was a phase that they were going to grow out of. You knew they felt like this and you were like, well, I don't feel like this, so there's nothing I can do. Got to shrug my shoulders.
You had Thanksgiving dinner with him. You had Thanksgiving dinner with him, Katy Perry.
Yeah. Like, these are, like, this is physically harmful to people. Someone died.
Your Trump voting family that you didn't want to alienate. That's who these motherfuckers are. That's what these dudes are.
Someone actually died because there were no cop involvement, and somebody got ran over by a car.
You know they're trying to say that, not him, but I saw some of the alt-right were trying to say, oh well, he was scared and they were attacking him. No, you see the video. The video is horrifying.
I'm sorry. How are they attacking him if it's a person versus a machine?
Yeah.
How does that work?
You see his car race down. He plows through people.
He backed up on somebody.
He plowed through, hit two cars, then backed up, hit more people. James Alex Fields from Ohio. Again, that's the other crazy thing about this. These people were all coming from they took this as a trip. As a date, as a fun weekend trip. They came from out of town. A lot of these people were from Virginia. They came from out of town.
Somebody had a shirt on that said Arkansas Engineering.
Yeah.
Which I was like,
okay.
Yep.
Came from Arkansas, came from Arizona, came from Ohio, came from, again, this guy is the Washington State University Republican college Republican president. You know, came from all these places, came here, and I said this before this even happened, before the car incident happened, the car vehicular manslaughter or vehicular murder happened. I was even saying this. I'm like, on Monday we're gonna see the friends and family of these races when they get exposed. They're gonna come out here and say, I never knew he was like this. And literally 24 hours later, after I said that, maybe 12 hours later after I said this happened, and they interview James Alex Fields' mom. Samantha Bloom, Mr. Fields' mother, told a Blade reporter her son texted her Friday to say he had dropped his cat off at her Montclair Township apartment so he could go to the alt-right rally in Virginia. I told him to be careful, Miss Bloom said, and if they're going to rally, make sure he's doing it peacefully. She did not add that. I guarantee you she didn't say that. It didn't appear that happened, she said tearfully. She had returned from dinner Saturday evening unaware of her son's involvement and had not been contacted by authorities. He told her about the rally last week but didn't offer any details about the extremist nature. I thought it had something to do with Trump. If it had something to do with Trump, it was going to be extreme. First of all, you dumbass. All right? I try to stay out of his political views. I don't get too involved. Maybe you should.
And that's my thing. Like,
maybe you should, white people.
There's definitely levels to this. Like, for you to take a trip out, which none of this is no level of this is acceptable, but I do think that there is very clear inherent signs of you taking it to a point of violence that you just have to be willfully obtuse to ignore. Genuinely have to be willfully obtuse to ignore. And that's where I'm just like, I do not understand. Listen, sometimes talking to your problematic family members is hard. I've had to do it myself. My family members are Black, obviously, but I've had to do that on my own time and be like, yo, this ain't cool. You can't do this. That's not all right. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. Here's the difference. You, like, talking to your problematic family members, there's a difference between them either changing their ways or not necessarily getting it versus literally using their airline points to go protest some bullshit for a Confederacy.
Yeah.
And everybody knows the difference. You know it. I know it. Doesn't matter what family member, Black, white, or indifferent. You know when there is a level of the bullshit that sometimes your family members believe that it gets into physical violence. And the fact that you willfully ignore it is an issue.
I was 20 at one point, years ago. And I know my mom, too much to my chagrin, would be very nosy if I ever said I was going somewhere, especially out of town, out of the state. Be very nosy. So the idea that his mother didn't know that her son was going all the way across the country,
Come on,
from Ohio.
My mother to this day, I'm 26. I've been living alone since out of college, so for 4 years. My mother still asks me when I go out of the country to go travel for vacation to send me the itinerary so she can put it on the calendar so she knows when I'm offline. You
say out of his life. You didn't think that the Trump thing was gonna. Okay, I don't believe you. She said he moved out of her apartment 5 or 6 months ago to his own apartment, but she declined to give the address. Ms. Bloom said they moved to Northwest Ohio from Florence, Kentucky about a year ago for a job. So wait a minute. So he moved out with you. So he was living with his mom. So I find it hard to believe that 5 or 6 months ago he was living with you, and he decides to move out and then go to a rally in Virginia, and you're just like, oh well, have fun, honey. I'm not gonna ask you much questions. Find it hard to believe. I also find it hard to believe that he's living with you and you didn't know his ideals and you didn't know his politics. I don't believe you at all. On the quiet day where Mr. Phil's mother lives, neighbors living in the colorful one-story conjoined unit said they didn't know much about the 20-year-old. They never do. Lois Schoonmaker lives across the street. Said Miss Bloom said she hadn't seen his car in months, but he was there. He was often blasted polka music from their car. On May 25th, he was charged by the police. Let's see. Let me see it. I'm trying to find the part where she says that he's not racist, but he has an African American friend.
Oh no, she didn't.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, she does.
No.
Yeah, she went to African American.
No. Somebody tried to do that to me once, right? Like, not even that, but like it was right after the election. I was talking to someone and they were like, well, one of my friends voted for Trump, but it's fine because she's married to a Black man and they have a mixed child. And my first thought was, oh, he got to divorce her immediately and take custody of that child.
Yeah. I don't have the quote, but yeah, at one point she does say that, and it's just like, oh yeah, because you guys made that. Here's some new stuff. Apparently, there's a 4chan thread, and they're racing to react because they. This guy's been identified as one of their own. And so they're trying. I don't want to concern troll, but at the same time, I think we need to address this. Where do we go from here? If all of this is true, it gives the left conservatives and everyone else the ultimate argument against us. And us being the multitude of people who support right-wing movements and want third world immigration to be stopped and get opposed and oppose cultural Marxism. By claiming we support violence and people dying, we're moving for peace, guys. Only works for Islam with the media supports against it. Is the alt-right as a movement or a label salvageable, or must we drop it and start something new? Because again, this is what they do. They do this all the time. They'll rebrand. They will do this. So somebody else in the thread goes, we need to create a positive outcome from the Charlottesville rally. Whether it be online or real life, we need to stand up and show that the mainstream media narrative is false. It's the only way to getting normies back on our side. At this point, the alt-right is about to be labeled as a terrorist group. Then there will be no more rallies, no more movements. I say we stand up and post images of the girl who died, say rest in peace. It's the only way to appease the normies and get them thinking that the alt-right isn't some terror cell full of KKK members. It is.
But it is.
After that, I say we have a peaceful rally, something like a park barbecue where everyone is welcome to join and discuss alt-right ideology in a safe environment. Bring families, show them what a peaceful white ethno state could be like, and they'd want to join. And if Antifa attacks the white families, they're gonna look like monsters. What do you guys think? Like this is what they've been doing though. Like this doesn't even shock me because this has been their MO for decades. This is what they've been doing. They have been normalizing and bringing in white families, bringing themselves in, presenting themselves not as KKK. We went over this this year, a couple years ago. I was talking about how the KKK was rebranding itself. Remember that? Oh, we're not a racist organization. We put white people first, but we're about everybody. They're rebranding. They're trying to soften the blow. They want the same thing though. It's no different. And this is where the whole Nazi thing comes in. They're no different than the Nazis. Only different is they're actually doing a better job of infiltration. They're playing a longer con game than the Nazis ever fucking did. You know? They're actually in a way, they're smarter. They're smarter than Hitler. They're smarter than the Nazis and the Nazis in Germany were. They understand that a lot of white people in America will go along with that shit. Like that second thing I read where he was like, we need to hold a barbecue park. We need to hold a barbecue and bring our families and show this is what that white ethno state looked like. They will do that because that's what they've been doing. They've been doing this shit.
Here's my thing, and I just like to backtrack a little bit to this white mother trying to defend her son being trash. Remember when we were talking about those 53% of white women voted for Trump? Mm-hmm. This is what we were talking about. And one of the things that irritated the hell out of me is quote unquote well-meaning white women trying to say, yeah, this is definitely a great example of like racist patriarchy, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, sis, but there are definitely some white women at that rally, though, that were photographed. Somebody called a video, one of them, calling a black person a nigger. So,
yeah.
And, but beyond that, it's white moms, white cousins, white girlfriends, white wives who are help pressing their shirts the night before. That know they're going out and being like, have fun, honey. I can't make it this time. They're the ones who support either through silence or financially.
As Rod said the other day, they packed their lunch.
Yeah.
They packed their lunch.
Absolutely.
They watch the kids. They watch the kids. What do you
think about them tiki torches?
Yeah. I didn't know, there's the mother again. I didn't know it was about white supremacists. I thought it had something to do with Trump. Trump's not a supremacist. He is.
What?
As Bloom was told of the allegation against her son, she told reporters that Fields has a black friend. A black friend. One.
Not only that, God bless that black friend. That black friend is in harm's way. Sir or ma'am, get out of it. Why are you friends with them? Save yourself.
But this is the same thing. But this is the same thing that happened with Dylan Roof, his family, and nobody went into any further details about what was going on with Dylan Roof's family. This doesn't come out of nowhere. If you were teaching your kids, white people, let me talk to you real quick. If you were teaching your kids how not to be white supremacists and how not to be racist and not to be bigots, they wouldn't be swayed by these other groups. Mm-hmm. But what's happening is you're saying this shit when you go home. You're blaming your loss of a job on niggers. You
think affirmative action is black people go to college for free, which is something that people like white people genuinely think. It's not something they teach in school. That is a word of mouth thing they've learned from their parents and grandparents.
You think Jews are why you're not getting ahead. You think Jews run the world. You have shitty. If you're men, you have shitty views of women, and some of the women have shitty views of women. Right? You've been saying this stuff, and your kid has literally been learning this shit since birth. You've been saying that shit. So then they go to college. They go to college and they find some other little shitheads who have the same fucking upbringing, and they go there, and you know what they do? Now there's fucking two of them. Now there's a pack, and they get in this, and they get caught up in this. Then when shit like this happens, you go, I don't know where he learned it from. He learned it from you, Dad. He learned it from you, Mom. He learned it from fucking you. I've yet to see a person who grew up in a family that was completely open, who was completely anti-racist, anti-bigoted, and grows up and has a kid who turns out to be a giant shit muffin like this. And if they do,
when you're talking,
if they do, their parents don't go, "Oh, I don't know where he learned that from." Parents go, "Wasn't us." Like we condemn what his actions were. We taught him this, and this. Because you never hear them say what they. You don't hear her say, "What did you teach him?" You don't hear her go, "Did you vote for Trump?" Or, Trump's not a white supremacist. I don't believe that. Some of you guys don't even know what that shit fucking means. So you're saying that you're saying, "Oh, Trump's not a supremacist." You don't even fucking know what that means. His fucking campaign is full of them. Stephen fucking Miller, 20-year-old. I didn't know Stephen Miller got his fame because got where he is because of his writings on the Duke lacrosse case. I didn't know that was it. I didn't know
Jeff
that was
Sessions.
Yeah, I didn't know Stephen Miller was that guy. He literally started off with a 20-year-old shit muffin at Duke, and he's grown with this American exceptionalism, racial superiority, all this shit. He is the one who's working on the immigration policy. He is a white supremacist. We talked about, you mentioned Jeff Sessions. He's not in the administration, but Representative Steve King, who has been on air on MSNBC and has said white supremacist talking points. You don't get to sit there and go, "I didn't know it was that." It's there. You don't want to know. If you're saying that you didn't want to know, you didn't want to find out, you saw it and you were just like, well, he'll be okay. Fuck you.
Yep. And that's the thing what I was trying to mention about we all got problematic parents, relatives that we have to check. There's a difference between you checking it early or checking it too late, because that stuff can and will grow. It's a seed. If you don't constantly check it, that seed is gonna grow into a tree, and that tree is gonna bear fruit. And that fruit that it bears is violence. That's exactly what it is. And so unless you do the work to start nipping it in the bud early, and that's for all of us, then it's going to continue growing.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. Last thing, and then we'll move on. I wanted to bring it up because it was one of the things I was originally going to talk about this week before she went to hell, but it fits so nicely in here. There was all information about the Google guy, the guy from Google who wrote the manifesto. Mm-hmm. So first thing here, dear, if what you write is described as a manifesto, it's never good. It's never good. Like every time I hear a manifesto, I immediately think, this is going to be racist, particularly if it comes from a white guy. If you write a manifesto, yeah, never good. Never. I'm sorry, word association. I associate that manifesto with you about to say some racist shit. So there's that. Second thing, and I don't know the guy's name. I didn't have it written down. But I found it interesting that he's claiming he's not racist and he's not sexist. But then he immediately went and did all these interviews with racist and sexist people, white men from the alt-right, just a word of advice. If you're not racist and you're not sexist, don't do interviews with Fox News. Don't do interviews with known racists. Don't do interviews with known sexist, anti-feminist dudes. Don't do those interviews. Because when you do those interviews, I'm going to go, you're saying you're not racist, but your actions are showing, not to mention your words in that document were clearly racist and clearly sexist. But beyond that, your actions afterwards show that you definitely are. But I've seen this. We'll make our own white supremacists starting tech companies after being banned from Silicon Valley. In response to the massive Silicon Valley companies like Airbnb pushing them out for their bigoted ideologies, far-right figures are filling the gaps by founding their own startups. According to the Los Angeles Times, Airbnb's cancellation of accounts hosting. As a matter of fact, shout out to Airbnb, because I remember there was a lot of talk about Airbnb and their racism and some of their hosts being racist and denying access. I'm pretty sure that still happens. Shout out to Airbnb though for at least they're responding. They might not be perfect, and I understand how hard that is. They're responding, and what they were doing was they were canceling. They found out that these people were white supremacists. They were canceling their Airbnb, their bookings. I was like, good for you. Airbnb cancellation of accounts hosting properties for Unite the Right rally scheduled this weekend in Charlottesville, Virginia, has caused some enterprising members of the alt-right, the right, to respond as they have in the past, ponying up money and time for their own platforms. Silicon Valley is becoming the right's new favorite punching bag following Google's expulsion of the engineer who wrote the infamous diversity manifesto, and their fight with Airbnb has only intensified the anonymity. We're getting banned from using payment processing services, so we had no other choice, said a right-wing right-wing racist Tim Gonnet, who goes by his handle Baked Alaska, who, by the way, I saw the images of him on this weekend. He got maced in the face. If you can find the images in the video, it's fucking hilarious. It's great. It's very therapeutic. And who is scheduled to speak at the Charlottesville rally. If that's the gamble they want to take, I guess they can. We'll make our own infrastructure. Gunner's idea is far from new. After many alt-writers had been banned from Twitter last year, the report notes that they moved to another platform, Gab, a social network that builds itself as an ad-free social network for creators who believe in free speech, individual liberty, and the free flow of information online. The market is owned and controlled by and operated by the oligarchy of Twitter and Facebook and Google. Gab's founder, Andrew Torba, told The Times, the reality is hate speech is free speech. Gab is joined by other sites founded in response. Users are being kicked off for violating anti-discrimination rules such as Patreon, a crowdfunding platform built after alt-writers were banned from raising money on popular site Patreon. Yeah. We can laugh at this, but it also just shows you that we have to be vigilant because they're going to do this. They're always going to find a way. And there's going to be people that are going to fight for them. It goes back to what we were talking about the ACLU. The ACLU is defending themselves. They're defending, the ACLU does good. They defend a lot of marginalized groups who have their rights violated. And they wrote this article about why they have to defend Milo, and that, they have to defend hate speech because it's free speech and they have to do that. My answer to that is no, you don't. That doesn't mean that there's no free speech. Let Milo find his own lawyer. Let Milo find his own groups. Like I said, force them to do like they're doing here with Silicon. Force them to make their own platforms. Force them to segregate. You don't have to defend them.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, now you're fucking your money up, because there's a lot of people who are like, I'm withdrawing my monthly subscription to ACLU for many reasons. For the obvious ones being what happened with Milo, but I think people don't really understand what free speech is, and what it's defined by, and what happens when you put it under the guise of free speech, especially with Google. We've been focusing, again, the conversation on the white person. We're focusing a lot on the guy that got fired, but never actually had a conversation with the women and people of color that are at the work who got that manifesto and had to read it and still had to come to work in every day.
What do you have to do when you find out that he got fired, but that there are still enough people at Google who believe this guy that it got passed around as long as it did?
Like, it's been time between his firing and when the manifesto got released. As a Black employee, I don't know what that feels like, reading that from an employee that you might know personally and work with personally on projects, and still got to come into work every day. That's crazy. Like, people, once again, are not focusing on the people of color and the women that are that this manifesto was about, but it's about him losing his quote unquote free speech. What if that free speech makes someone terrified of going to work every day to do their job, and it's a job they love?
Our pain is never in consideration.
And on top of that, hello, the CEO of your company is a person of color. How'd you think this was going to pan out, dog? What does it mean when you're a person of color and you're trying to, and maybe he has or hasn't, I don't know, I don't work at Google, but you're at least trying to make a place, or say you were trying to make a place that is inclusive, and you have coworkers who feel so emboldened to release this manifesto that other coworkers have to read who are part of marginalized groups, and you're a CEO who is a person of color, And even when you're the most important person in the room and the most high of power in the person of the room, you still got people beneath you thinking that they can talk that talk to you.
Well, not only just that, but it's just like, you know, I seen all this the argument. Can I even see people on the right? I mean, on the left, because you know, white people on the left still can't find a way to not step on. They always find a way to jump on a bullet when they don't need to. Jump in front of a bullet when they don't need to. You're just like, well, I'm not sure about firing this guy because you know you're really stifling the free flow of ideas and things like that. I'm like, stop that bullshit. All right. We've all worked in a company. All right. If he wanted free flow ideas and maybe, and I think what he wrote was racist and sexist, but if you want to express that feelings, you can go to the proper channels. He didn't do that.
Mm-mm.
What he did was he wrote, and look, I remember once when I was so I was a Meyerhoff at University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and it's a program, and it's changed over the years. They're a program mainly for it was aimed mostly at black students. They've added in other students as well into this scholarship program, there was a lot of requirements even throughout the years as you were a student to keep your scholarship and things like that. And everybody used to come to me to complain about things that happened in the program. The program funds you for 4 years. I was going to be a 5th year senior because computer science program is a 5-year program. So my last year, I was like, well, I already got my funding. I don't really give a shit anymore. So I sent an email out over the summer. I wrote this email that had all the problems. I said all the hypocrisy, sent it to all the leadership staff. I sent it to everybody who was on there. Hit send. It was like, fuck it, I don't care. Because I knew, I was like, yo, I know this is going to burn some bridges. I know this is going to make some people mad. But at this point, I don't care. Like, it doesn't, I'm speaking for everybody else. And I'm already going to be funded. I'm going to be good. But I knew when I sent that it was going to cause problems. So I'm saying all that to say that when this guy did what he did, he knew what he was doing. He knew it was going to cause problems. He knew it wasn't going to go over well. He knew it wasn't going, he knew the end was in sight. Like, you know, when you do things like that, what the proper channels are. And I'm pretty sure he didn't even go the proper channels. You know, I'm pretty sure he didn't even attempt to do that. And so it's like, dude, you're not the victim here. You're not. Not only are you espousing racist and sexist things, but then you didn't even try, and you had no care of your coworkers who are in the groups you're talking about. You had to go. You were creating a hostile environment. And it's just, it's sickening to me to see people sit there and try to act like that's not what it is. And it goes back to the idea that we don't matter. If you're not a white male, you don't matter, which also goes back to how silly the protest this weekend was, because you have white men feeling like they're losing something. What are you losing? You own almost everything in this country. Most of the Fortune 500 companies run by white men. You have most of the jobs. You have most of the political positions. You have everything. You lose an inch and you complain like you've lost everything. Like, what is wrong with you? Oh, they're gonna tear down. They're already leased at you. So? What? It's fucking crazy, you know? It's
so unnecessary, and it's very clear this disillusion feeling of them being the marginalized, and I think that's the wildest part, because nothing about your demonstration yesterday showed how marginalized you are, because you were still able to kill somebody on site because there was no police activity,
and you weren't shot. They weren't. Remember, this guy was taken alive.
Yep. Wasn't shot and killed. You wasn't arrested for being on property that belongs to you. You wasn't. The only time you got tear gas was somebody else tear gassed you, but police didn't tear gas you. You didn't get hit by rubber bullets.
Yeah, it's just it's incredible. Like you were able to march and do all this stuff with weapons.
With weapons, and I'm not even talking about
state.
guns. They were dressed as faux Captain Americas with the shield and armor, trying to tell me.
Well, they were also dressed. They were dressed like that. They were dressed as you had people that dressed like as they were military.
Yep, and pretended like they were active military trying to protect the people, but just doing it as a way to protect the neo-Confederate protesters. Like, y'all got away with a lot of stuff. When you got made a news outlets being like the police felt they were unsafe, so they're not gonna protect the anti-racist protesters. Okay.
Tamir Rice got killed for a toy gun. Y'all
protested on a campus, on a school's campus, on a school campus where it's not in session right now, but I guarantee you people are doing summer programs and fellowships and research where they are students, innocent kids who are walking down on their campus and have to see this. Kids of color. Okay.
Philando Castile got killed for having a gun in the car.
That was legally owned by his, and he was checking out his NRA card and his license. Got shot. Won't even, Yep. Or his legal carry license. Sorry, not NRA license.
Yeah. These people got carried tiki torch. I'm in a fraternity. We did probates. We couldn't bring torches and march on campus. We get in trouble for that shit. These motherfuckers brought a bunch of torches and marched on a fucking campus, and nothing happened. Like 4 people got arrested.
Note, can I say something else too? Because something also is bothering me about this. Y'all got to stop calling Obama to help you. Obama's off the clock. Y'all got to stop calling black folk in when they off the clock. Stop it. It's irritating.
Yeah, I always see that from white liberals, particularly ones in show business, and like it's like, yo, no, he's not.
Here's the kicker: the tweet I'm talking about specifically was from one of the producers of La La Land.
I knew that's the one you're talking about. That's the one I was talking about. I responded to the same guy. Was it like David Horowitz or something like that? I can't remember what his fucking name is.
I think it's like Josh Horowitz.
My
man, and I tweeted at him, and I was like, y'all always like to call black folk in when they off the clock. And I meant that shit because my mentions have not been the same since because people apparently thought it was hilarious, but I was being so serious. Yo, hey, listen, you got a lot and here's what it is. You got a lot of nerve asking the black guy who y'all did not like those 8 years to essentially be the leader, the de facto leader for the man who created and started the birther movement against him during his 8 years. You got a lot of fucking nerve to ask for that.
Yeah. Get your own people. How about
Get your own people.
How about you do what you want him to like? How about you demand it yourself? Demand from yourself. What are you doing? What are you doing to ensure that the white people around you are doing? And coming from the fact that you did La La Land and basically whitewashed, was it jazz music?
Oh my God.
Gonna say not a lot.
And you're talking about like we need a leader. Okay, once again,
lead by example.
Y'all are not putting the pressure on the white folks that are in the office and asking for free labor from the man who is now a private citizen like the rest of us.
Fuck you.
Obama's out. Like leave. Like something about that. Like it genuinely irritates. That irritates the fuck out of me because once again, y'all Mike Jones, Obama. Back then you didn't want him. Now he's hot and out of the office. Y'all all up on him. I don't appreciate it. I genuinely don't. Like, leave him be. I don't need to hear a comment from Obama. And he commented on Twitter, like tweeting a piece quote from Nelson Mandela. And he could have kept that, to be honest, because I'm not in the mood for
I'm gonna be
peace,
real.
unity, and kumbaya, to be truthful.
I'm gonna be real. I don't think it was him. And here's why I don't think it was him. Wasn't yesterday his birthday?
Was it yesterday his birthday?
I thought yesterday was his birthday. The motherfucker was drunk as shit. I don't think he was anywhere near Twitter. Because here's the reason why I say that, because it was a Nelson Mandela quote, and there was nothing else. There was no words from actually. I don't think that was him, because I think the motherfucker was on. I think he looked on Twitter and was like, Ah, shit. Hey, Michelle, pass that spliff. Like, I don't think.
Listen, whoever it was from the Obama estate that is working with him, y'all could have kept that. Like, you
Oh,
really
yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
If it was his birthday, y'all could have kept that tweet. We don't need it.
Yeah.
We don't need those tweets. I don't need no kumbaya tweets. I'm sorry. I don't need no Nelson Mandela quotes. Love me some from some Mandela. Don't need some love is bigger than hate type of quote. I'm good. I'm genuinely good.
Okay, yesterday wasn't his birthday was August 4th, but still,
okay.
He might still be partying. Like, because that's literally the only thing that's on his account right now, and I'm like, that doesn't like you. Yeah, I don't think that's you, because he would have said something else other than the quote, and I'm just like, he might have still done the play it safe, but I'm just like, yeah,
right.
I don't think he's around.
And here's the thing: we really won't know what Obama is, what he looks like post-presidency until September, when he comes back to actively try to help reform the Democratic Party, which is an article that came out about that.
Right.
So my man is still on vacation. Regardless, stop asking Black people to do your job.
Right.
Because the Women's March also tweeted, like, we need to start listening to women of color. No.
Already told what to do. We gave you, there's plenty of stuff out there to do. You need to go out there and fucking do it. Like, there is no, like, at this point, you need to stop listening. You need to start doing.
That's where we're at. I would say if this was January 26, 2017, when we had, switch powers within the White House, different story. We are now in August 13, 2017. We have gone through 8 months of this shit. At some point, you need to start applying what you're learning and showing that you actually understand the lessons. I'm not doing this anymore. Stop asking Black people for free labor. We are not your mule. We are not your nannies. This is what we're not doing. We're not doing this anymore.
But you know what? Because I had a hours long like idiot yesterday I was dealing with who. I made this joke because Hillary Clinton actually had some pretty strong tweets yesterday calling out the white supremacy and stuff like that. Like, I got to give it to her. So I made a joke. I was like, I retweeted it and I was like, this lady could be president someday, right? Because I'm just making a joke about how we should have. Sure. So then here comes some person, some white dude. He said he's not white, but I think he's white. Came and was like, well, she didn't talk about Black people being killed by police and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's not true. So then and I didn't hit him up with this. So other people started hitting him up with all the information about how she actually did talk about that stuff. Because you always hear this people. I've even seen some Black people say this, that she didn't talk about these issues. And I'm just like, but she did. So then this guy, his whole response to me was, well, I didn't see it during the campaign, and I'm not good at Googling. And I'm just like,
you're not good at Googling.
You wanted other people to do the work for you because you're too fucking lazy. And that's not going to stop white supremacy. At some point, white people got to stop being fucking lazy. And this also means that you got to start realizing that you have to change. Like, I talk about this all the time as a man. As a cishet man, I have to change the way I do things and the way I look at things and the way I view the world. It is not easy. It is hard. I'm going to fuck up sometimes. I have to acknowledge that, though, right? White people, though, seem to not want to fucking do that shit. And it's incredible to me, like, you want to sit there and go and be shocked and be, I can't believe in 2017 this has happened, but like, look, I grew up, when I was growing up, Dukes of Hazzard was on TV. Or at least we play on TV land. Dukes of Hazzard, two white dudes from the South, driving a car with a giant Confederate flag painted into the side called the General Lee. This is America, folks. It's always been America. It's always been that. You just don't want to admit that some of the things you've known and loved and you grew up with are racist as fuck. Or that some of the people you've grown up with and love are racist as fuck. And you don't want to change, and because you know what? Change is hard. And it's an active thing. It's active participation. You cannot be lazy. You cannot be the group member in the group who shows up on the day of the presentation to get the A. You got to show your fucking work. A lot of white people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Until you fucking do that shit, Charlottesville's going to happen over and over again. Because you know what? Here's the thing. Charlottesville has been happening. You know? Like, I'm looking at the media today, and I'm really getting mad at so many of the media going, well, we can't really necessarily blame Trump for this. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. He fanned the flames. His base are these people. These are the people he's talking to. He's put their champions in the White House. Sebastian Gorka, Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller. He's put these people in there.
As advisors.
He stumbled. Remember back when he stumbled on the David Duke thing? Like back in January?
And David Duke was out there and said, like, we are enacting the promises that Trump has given us.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
And I'm watching the media go, well, we can't really blame Trump. No, you can, because it's a straight line. This is not a complicated, like again, we're doing our character corner on Hawkman. We moved it from today to tomorrow. That's complicated. Like Hawkman's history is fucking complicated. It's not complicated to draw a line between and connect the dots with Donald Trump and white supremacy. It's a straight fucking line. It's right there. He was a birther. Once you start at he was a birther, guess who also is birthers? These white nationalist motherfuckers. Because they go with anything that will degrade the first black president. So they were all about that shit. So this idea that you can't draw a line, you can't blame Trump, these are his base. These are the people he's been talking to. You have study after study that says that the deciding factor for many of these Trump voters and Trump things was not economic anxiety, because that wasn't economic anxiety you saw over this weekend. It was racism. It was bigotry. It was white nationalism. That is all the stuff you've seen. This is why they don't care about facts. This is why when you interview these people in these cold country towns and you ask them about these things, they don't care. They want strength. That's why they're like that. Come on, folks. So much. So anyway, let's move on. Let's get off of this. But yeah, it's exhausting. It's exhausting being black.
I'm over it. Let me tell you what I'm doing. I am trying to live my best black life. Like, I'm genuinely not trying to let this steal my joy. Genuinely. Like, I'm really not trying to let it break me down and like make me sad. I don't blame anybody who feels this way though. I've just genuinely gotten to a resolved space where it's just like, this isn't me. I didn't start this.
Yeah, not my problem.
So I shouldn't. It's not my problem.
Yeah.
So and neither is it Obama. So, and that's why I was so frustrated by that. Yo, stop looking for black people, and another thing, particularly black women, to fix your shit. We done told you multiple times. And sometimes we have done things to the betterment of us to save the rest of everyone else. And I'm tired of that shit. I did my part in the voting booth.
Well,
I was part of that 94%. Y'all gonna leave me alone.
Well, you know why they say that, right? You know why they do that? They do that because it's the same way when when people were talking about diversity with like Marvel and things like that. You were getting a lot of these articles about people that were trying to get on Marvel for not being diverse, but they were like shittily written. Because you got people that want to hop on the bandwagon. So people who say, oh, just listen to black women, because they think that's all they got to say. It's like, if I just say listen to black women, that's all I got to do. I don't actually have to listen to black women who are telling me to actually go out and do shit. I can just say listen to black women, and that'll be fine. It's like, it's you know what it is? It's the new I voted for Obama. That's what it is. It's the new I voted for Obama. I voted for Obama. Oh, I'm not racist. So, that's not how that works, but okay. But yeah, so in other news, in other things, if it's not Trump and white supremacy that's going to kill us, do you even sci-fi bro? We have some new stuff with do you even sci-fi bro, because yeah. All right, this week on Do You Even Sci-Fi Bro, again, we're sticking with the robots because If the apocalypse is going to happen, it's going to be robots because we just don't learn from anything, and we're fucking stupid. Meet the cyborg beetles, real insects that are controlled like robots.
Why?
The future is crawling towards us on 6 legs. Motherboard revealed to travel to Singapore to meet with Dr. Hirotaki Sato, an aerospace engineer with Nanyang Technological University. Sato and his team are turning live beetles into cyborgs by electrically controlling their motor functions. What could possibly go wrong with?
Well, I never understand what's the point. What is the point?
To kill us. I don't know. Having studied the beetles' muscle configurations, neural networks, and leg controls, the researchers are wired the insects so they can be controlled by a switchboard. In doing so, the researchers can manipulate the different walking gants, speeds, and flying directions and other forms of motion. If you've watched Rick and Morty, last week's Rick and Morty, this sounds like what Pickle Rick did when he got the cockroach and controlled the cockroach and built himself a little cyborg suit out of the cockroach. Yeah, this is what they're doing. Moreover, turning beetles into cyborgs seem to not be that harmful to them. The natural lifespan is 3 to 6 months. Even with the resources interference, they survive for several months. According to the resources, the beetles have never died right after stimulation. And while this technology might seem crazy, the implications are very practical. Sensors that detect heat and hence people can be placed on beetles, so they can be manipulated to move towards a person. That's not a good thing. This can be helpful when searching for someone, such as a criminal investigation or finding terrorists. Oh, okay, so we're gonna create actual bugs like in The Fifth Element, where the cockroach they had a giant like microphone on it, and they're using it to bug the office. Oh, we're gonna create real human bugs. Oh, great. Yeah, this is a great thing for surveillance. That's just what we want more of. We have to actually look out for bugs. Researchers are very serious about about ensuring whatever applications are for the technology, they will go towards peaceful purposes. What you just talked about is not a peaceful purpose. All right, it is increasing surveillance, and that's not a good thing.
I'm still not understanding what's the point of this.
This is to create bug robots.
But why? I'm missing something. I just don't. Why?
Well,
why waste your time on this?
So what I found is when it comes to most things with robots and artificial intelligence, the question, why are we even really doing this, is always a valid one that's never really answered. Because you don't need to turn beetles into cyborg beetles. And the idea of, oh no, this will only be used for peaceful purposes. What peaceful purpose would you need to turn a bug? Because like, if they were like, oh yeah, we can use it to like find people in fires. Like, well, these bugs will just be burned up, so that's not gonna be it. It just seems like a really stupid idea that can only end in pain.
How many fires a year happens that you need to have a swarm of bugs, though? I don't...
None.
So then, like, what's the point of having a fire department then?
Well, you still need the fire department to put them out. So I guess you can send bugs into places that are I don't know. It's just, honestly, it's just stupid.
Yeah, that's just dumb. Y'all just really... Here's what I'm talking about. And this is why Do You Even Sci-Fi Bro exists. Because y'all are taking the worst lessons from sci-fi, which is let's just make cool shit. But you're not taking the most important lessons of sci-fi, which is there has to be a reason behind it and it shouldn't kill people.
I mean, I can't go with cyborg beetles. I can't.
Yeah, no, because I don't like insects in general. Why would I want one that's controlled by somebody? And you've talked about it on Do You Even Sci-Fi Bro before. These are not independently thinking robots. They are influenced by whoever the creator is. So if you have a creator tying this all together who's racist, guess who's the first one to get killed?
You're going to create an army of cyborg spiders who kill black people. I am not down for this. I am not.
This is
down
what I'm
for
saying.
This.
Like,
I'm all
stop.
out of this. I'm not down for this at all.
And people like that who think that tech is the future, that's going to make everything more equal and balanced and fair for every marginalized group, your thinking is also crap too. Like, it's not founded on actual science and based facts.
Well, see, I disagree. I believe it will happen, but you want to know why it's going to happen? Because there's going to be a robot apocalypse that's going to wipe out half of the human population, and so we'll be forced to work together. Because honestly, anytime there's people talk about revolution and coming together, and we need to get a world, everybody needs to come together and work as one. I like to remind people that the only way this works, even in sci-fi, is there's always an apocalypse that wipes out half the human population. So either it's going to be a robot apocalypse, zombie apocalypse, or alien apocalypse. Something's going to happen that's going to... There needs to be an outside force that literally wipes out half of us and forces us all to put aside our differences and come together. That is the only way this fucking works. Until that happens, it's a pipe dream. I'm sorry. I don't believe it's going to happen. I'm just that cynical. So this entire show has basically been a great moment of white privilege, but I got to go with this one because it's going to be good. So you're going to find this. Oh, they couldn't find the original. Oh, you might be lucky. My music got moved. Somebody moved the Masterpiece Theater. I'll play it over the top later on. My great moments of white privilege music. But I got to get to the story. I've been putting it off for too long, and it's fucking hilarious. Mom uses breast milk to make brownies for school bake sale. Doesn't expect reaction like this.
No. Absolutely not. No.
An anonymous mother used breast milk to make brownies for her kids' school bake sale, and she doesn't understand why people are disgusted by it. The mother supposedly didn't have enough time to run to the store to buy milk, so she just used her own. When other mothers found out, they were completely disgusted by her action, and she doesn't understand why. According to the anonymous mom, some of those kids could use nutrition. She foolishly turned to Facebook for some advice on what to do. Now the moms are angry, and her post was shared on the Sanctimommy Facebook page. The post has gone viral since, with thousands of comments from outraged internet users. Keep on scrolling to see the mom's posts and the internet users. So let's see her post. Sigh, let me try for the third time now. Sigh, stupid Facebook. I need some advice. I made brownies for my school bake sale that had breast milk in them. I didn't have time to run to the store and didn't think it was a big deal. Some of the kids knew to use some nutrition. It wasn't even that much. One of the moms found out and ended up blowing it out of proportion. I don't know what to do. Any suggestions?
But here's my thing. These are the same white people that'll get up in a tizzy if Starbucks don't got soy. Yeah. You're not gonna put no breast milk in my food and not give me the heads up on that. Absolutely not. And then try to have the excuse of, well, it's based on nutrition. Girl, if you don't get the whole fuck out of here, no. That is disgusting. So no. Funny. No.
It is.
No. You can't be doing that. That is you absolutely taking away like my right to ask what's in this food. And the fact that she thought that was okay, girl, I don't know you. No.
Oh man, it's so funny, hilarious. I had to get into that.
No. So. This is the same type of white people that be like, yo, is there dairy in this?
Right.
Is there egg in this?
Well, no, it's not dairy from a cow. So, all right. Last thing before we get into the Black woman shout out, I had to get this. I wanted to get into last week, but I couldn't. New York Times did this article on Samuel L. Jackson, and it was the greatest thing ever. If you have not read this, it is fucking fantastic. And you read it and you're like, God damn, Samuel. When I grow up, I want to be Samuel L. Jackson. There's some parts in here because he's doing the Hitman's Bodyguard I see this week. Let's see. At one point, he improvised a line. He added in some cursing and some racial needling in the film. The film was originally written with Darius as a white Irishman. Mr. Jackson prefers to steer. He is meticulous about preparation, has a deep lack of empathy for colleagues who have forgone the same. Sam, like myself, doesn't suffer fools, said Mr. Lee. You don't want Sam to get in your face on the set. He let out one of his signature exuberant howls. Even myself, first thing in the morning, in the shoot, I knock on the door. Can I get some breakfast? What do you need? Mr. Jackson conceded, "I can be a hard taskmaster for some directors. He is a boss when he is on set. That is, the option to go golfing twice a week is written into all of his film contracts, and he's alerted to extra takes. I'm at that point," he said, "where I can go, that's not going to be in the movie, right? We already got it. We got it when we did it, and I'm not going to do that." And then they want to call my agent, he said, fixing his face into a familiar Samuel L. Jackson purse lips expression of arrogant exasperation. "Call whoever you want, because I'm not doing that." And you know where this is going.
I love it.
I love the idea that he has in his contract written on in his contract. He goes golfing every 2 weeks, for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, do what you got to do. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's something else in here that I thought in here that was good. He was talking about golfing and stuff like that, but no, it was a great profile. I definitely read it. I just love it. Like, Sam Jackson's based on some. Yeah, man, I'm Samuel motherfucking Jackson. I'm gonna do what I want to do when I want to fucking do it, and we're doing one take. If it needs more than one take, it ain't gonna be in the fucking movie. So figure that shit out, homeboy. And I fucks with that. Like, that's the unapologetically black shit I need. I need to hear that. I need to see that. I'm down with that. Good. Yes.
Yeah, he's, Samuel L. Jackson does not care. He does not. Because he does like 50 movies a year. So if one check dries up, he'll surely get a number.
Oh, yeah.
Another one.
Oh, he got enough money as it is in that way. So even if it doesn't, even if he gets no more acting, like, he's set. He's Samuel L. Jackson. Like, he does whatever the fuck he wants. All right, so let's move on to the Black Woman shout out. This week we're finally back to doing some Black women businesses. This one came from Ashanti. She met some people at work, and they're a wife and husband. Her name is Anne Maria Stevens, and she's the co-founder of Precise Proportions, and our P&G trained chemical engineer started this company to help address the nutritional challenges of people like all of our family members suffering from complications of type 2 diabetes. We have since broadened our positioning to focus on healthy eating lifestyles and preventing childhood obesity, but still sell to the American Diabetes Association, for instance. Our focus is on creating nutritional learning systems that are visual aids to support healthy eating habits for the whole family. So their website is preciseportions.com. And what is it? They Ashanti bought several of these plates. They have portion size plates, and they have. Why is it not opening right now? Hold on, sorry, it's not opening the website. They have plates. They have glasses, and they show you basically, what the recommended portion size are for a single serving. Because that's the one thing. You get a bowl, and you don't know, filling a whole bowl up is more than a single serving. And so what these plates do is, and hold on, Joy, I'm going to shoot you a Skype message that has it in it.
Okay, let me, should I open up my Skype now?
Yes, if I can find you, yes.
Okay.
Because I'm on my...
Ignore the noise.
No, you're fine. So I just sent you a link so you can see it. So they have family lifestyle porcelain. They have a little they have little portion size for children. They even have like to go ones. So they have regular plates that you can get. They have to go ones. Shandy showed me some. They have single items. They have special condition ones for people who are diabetic. They're really interesting, really cool. They have recipe books. They have a lot of things on here on this site here. So they have a 9-inch focus portion control plate that's microwavable. You can see it, and let me open one of them up here. Oh, can I get
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So they even have even if you look at one of the plates has a place for your non-starchy vegetables, a place for your starch or grains. They have a place for your meat or meat substitutes, so you can put them in your plates. And you can have, help you portion control to help you, lose weight, eat healthier, and things like that. They have a whole bunch of stuff. So they have beyond just the plates, they have learning tools. I mean, it's an entire site that's really set up for this. And
also, their stuff is really affordable right now. I looked into the diabetic one, and they have 100 favorite recipes book, like cookbook, is on sale for like $5.
Yeah.
It's really affordable.
Yeah. They have a 52 show and tell nutritional flashcards for kids. And they even, the great thing about it, they even have one for Spanish kids. They for Spanish, they have one in Spanish. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. They have a 100 favorite recipe made healthy paperback on sale right now, $9.95. So yeah, I say definitely check these out and check them out. Again, the site is preciseportions.com. Check them out, and yeah, they definitely deserve your money. And hopefully I'll be able to get LaToya to reach out to them and get them to do a spotlight on Secret Sauce there. So Joy, do you have anybody you want to shout out for your Black Woman shout out? I'm always putting people on the spot.
I know. I'm just gonna shout out Black Girl Nerds because we were having a really good year. We're doing TIFF coverage. This is my first time doing international coverage. I'm just excited to be with the girls. My co-host Jacqueline, specifically on Black Girl Nerds. I just want to take a moment to shout out and tell her thank you. When we did the Black Lorette podcast, we were just doing it as a joke, and it was under the Black Girl Nerds umbrella. Because I never watched a single episode of the Bachelor franchise in my black ass life.
You probably won't watch it again either.
Right. And then Jack watched a bunch of it. And so the first time I ever having a black lead, she was like, who want to be my co-host? I was like, I might be interested in it. But she already had someone. They dropped it the last minute, and she was like, you still want to do it? And I was like, sure. I've learned a lot about myself as a co-host just doing it by myself because I've always been like a guest mostly, or have done podcasts with other people, but not one where I had to record weekly, write notes, talk about it, have to fill out the editing form, have our editors put it up, constantly check to see when it's getting posted. I never had to do that. And I learned a lot about myself as a podcaster and taking it a little bit more seriously, just doing I think it was like 9 or 10 episodes we did. And we got to, get interviewed from Think Progress as a result of that, which was like super fucking cool for me. But I just want to thank Jacqueline for that. She's more in the podcast / writing game than I am. And the fact that she kind of let me take a shot at it and I was able to bond with her over that. It was really fun to do.
Awesome. You guys have it. And again, if you are a black woman with a business and you want us to reach out to us, it's bwbusiness@mtrnetwork.net. And we'll spotlight you on the show and hopefully get you onto Secret Sauce, which, by the way, Secret Sauce this weekend, I am putting it up to iTunes on its own solo feed. We have a new logo. I'm sorry, I forgot the lady's name who did it for us. I'll shout her out for the Black Woman shout out next week. It's a really great logo, so it's going to go for Secret Sauce. So that'll be out this week. And I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be great. So, and again, we still got to get Jack. I'm making an announcement now. If you're a black graphic designer, hit up Jack's Dynamite on Twitter. He's going to be looking for somebody to make a logo for him for Ratchet and Drank. So hit him up, and we like spotlighting different. Right now, I'm building a pretty good portfolio of black creatives who have supported the MTR network as a whole. And have done work for us. I mean, obviously we have Jamie Hill. He's got a lot. Matter of fact, go to zoodesigns.com. Jamie's got a lot of new designs out that he put out. They're really, really good. They're shirt designs as well. I know the House Jackson one, the Game of Thrones design one that he had at NegroCon is up. So go there, go to his site, check those out. He's got a lot of new ones up as well. So we're gonna be reaching out to creatives who can help us do things like that and do some design work for us. So yeah, and like I said, sign up for MTR Premium. Look out for our Patreon account when we get that up to, again, keep helping us do some great things. And Joy, I want to say thank you very much for joining us on this long, rough insanity check. I swear, next time you get you on, it'll be something fun.
I guess I'm just.
You know what I'm gonna do? I know what I'm gonna do. I know what I'm gonna do. Because TIFF is in September, right?
Yeah.
All right. I know I got New York Comic Con at the beginning of October. I'm gonna get you on sometime in October so we can talk about New York Comic Con. You can talk about TIFF. That way we'll make sure we'll build into that show a time to us to have some joy time.
Yay.
All right.
Okay.
We'll
Thank
do
you.
that.
That's all I ask.
We'll do
Thank
that.
you.
We'll do that.
Also, are you guys gonna? You're probably gonna do a meetup during New York Comic Con. You'll see me.
Yeah, I think we're gonna figure something out. Like, here's the thing: as long as somebody else does it, cause I'll be honest, we're so busy. I don't wanna plan it. I fucking hate planning. So if somebody else plans one, then we'll figure something out. Even if it's just us saying where we're gonna be at and we'll drink somewhere, we'll figure it out. But we're gonna be around. Matter of fact, because we're gonna be around on Sunday too, because we don't leave. We're doing the train up this year, so we don't leave until our train doesn't leave until like 6 o'clock on Sunday. So we will definitely be around at some point. Because we don't do a lot of coverage on Sunday, so we'll see. But yeah, we'll be around. We'll let people know. We'll figure that out and go from there. And matter of fact, Ashley will be up with us. Shanty's coming, so yeah, we're bringing some people with us this year. So see how that goes. But Joy, please tell everyone where they can find you at and how they can reach you.
Jump for Joy on Twitter, JUMPEDFORJOI. You can also find me on Black Girl Nerds as Joy. I have a drop down on Black Girl Nerds now, so you can see my articles, which is cool. I'm also a Rotten Tomatoes critic. Just wrote a review for Step. I did a joint review with Karan, who's a writer for Black Girl Nerds for Wonder Woman, and I should be writing some more pretty soon. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, everyone, you find us on on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, YouTube, Insanity. Well, on YouTube, find us on MTR Network. Everywhere else, you can search for Insanity Check, and you can email us at let's see, just do mtrailerreviews at mtrnetwork.net. I have so many fucking email addresses right now. Coming up on Premium, we just did our Alien vs. Predator nostalgia review. Next week we're gonna be doing Spider-Man 2. We have the episode, the second part of our Saga revisit coming up later on in this month. I got 3 new episodes of Molecules and shit. They're all not coming up at one point. We're gonna put them out probably one this week, maybe another one in a couple weeks here. That's premium stuff coming out there. Again, this is podcast week for Unanimous Decision and DPOM. He's already recorded some of the podcasts that are coming out this week. The new podcast, new Unanimous Decision each week. We're also going to put out the Character Corner we do on Monday. That might come out like later on this week. Maybe I'll put it out Friday or so. And then I got to talk to him, and we're going to do it. We're going to do a quick turnaround on the next Character Corner as well. We're going to get back into Peter Parker. I might combine the other media and the Clone Saga Part 2. Ugh. We'll figure that out. So I'll talk to DPOM. We're going to try to get 2 Character Corners, maybe 3 out in August. And we'll have an announcement soon about some of the other characters we're going to do for Character Corner coming out soon. And also, this is Defenders Week. So starting maybe the week after next, the Super Tuesday, will be back with reviews of Defenders. And we're going to break out the Defenders review into like 3 parts probably. Maybe 2 parts. I think Defenders is only 8 episodes. So it might only be 2 parts. From now on for the Netflix shows, we're breaking them out into parts. So it's easier for us to talk about the entire series and not just do 1 episode. So stay tuned, folks. So thank you guys very much for listening. And again, visit mtrnetwork.net for everything else you got going on for the MTR Network. So until next time, we are out of here. Peace.
Bye, guys.